And it says video unavailable. Let's see. I'm not sure if this is working.
It says that it's streaming live on YouTube on my end.
Let's see, view stream on YouTube. Oh, must have been a bad link. Okay, yep, looks like we're good.
Yes, Susan, we can see you.
All right, I think we're ready to get started. The first thing I want to do today is let's go back over the homework, let's go back over the problem we ended with yesterday. And I want to use this kind of as an opportunity to, redo the GitHub setup, make sure everybody's got their programs that they can access. They can pull the latest from GitHub. And we'll take the opportunity. There's a new problem. If we have time to get to it today, we'll do another program. This time today, if we get time, we're going to make a program that rolls dice, virtual dice. So you can make like a Yahtzee game or something that will give you a random dice roll every time you want to do a random roll. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And I forgot to switch computers. So this is like my work computer. It might be like a little all over the place. So just bear with me here. Oops. Okay. Oh. Okay. So does everybody have, everybody has GitHub Desktop, right? And we have the code base repository, hopefully. And we're going to fetch or pull, click over here to start this class because we want to make sure to get the latest. I've added the week 6 day 2 file here, or folder here. And this is going to have our today's program if we get time for this later. But let's start by going back to our math problem. If you remember, we left off with not quite the code I had in the after file. It was missing this middle section. And secondly, it was actually missing, any comments, which are done like this in JavaScript. You start the line with 2 slashes, forward slashes, right next to the shift key. And then everything after that on the line, it will turn green like this, and it won't cause anything to happen in JavaScript. So this is how you can put little explanations of what your code is doing. It's usually not good to just restate exactly what the code says. If it's obvious, you don't need a comment. But if there's anything surprising about your code, or in this case, I'm doing it pretty thoroughly because everybody's new to JavaScript, and I kind of wanted to add explanations of what each part does. So in the after file, you see these green comments. Does everybody have both of these folders visible, the W6D1 and the W6D2 Yahtzee folder? Use a thumbs up if you do, or actually holler if you don't. And again, I think the easiest way we found to get to the right place in VS Code is you always start from GitHub Desktop. So if you have the right repository up here, Careers in Code, Classroom Code Base, check that this icon is a book. You don't want that to be anything else. That's going to be wrong. You want the current branch to stay in master, and you're going to want to click fetch origin or pull origin if that's what that says. Hopefully there's nothing over here. So this is one thing that we've noticed some people having trouble with, is that there might be stuff listed here, and when you click this, it pops up an error message. I don't know if anybody's still seeing that. Could you speak up if you are not able to click here, see fetch origin, and click as much as you want, and it should have no problem? Does anybody not get that result?
I have 7 changed files.
Okay.
Should I do something with those before I try to pull?
Do you mind just getting rid of any changes and starting fresh today?
No.
Okay, so what you would want to do, I'll just demonstrate here. I'll change this file and I'll save it. And if I go look in here, so now I have 1 change file. So you probably see 7 all the way down here, right? What you can do is this top bar where it says 7 changed files in your case, or 1 changed file for me, if you hold Control and click on that, you get this option to discard all changes, or stash, which is a different thing. You don't need to really worry about that unless you want to keep them for later, which I can't imagine why you would need to for this repository. So what I will do, and what you should do if you see anything here, again, Control click on the number of changed files here and go to discard all changes. And it will say, are you sure? And I will say, though not the blue one, that's cancel. It's trying to guide you to not deleting anything for some reason. You want to definitely click discard all changes when this pops up. And then you should be back to this screen where you can see no local changes. Again, the repository, the branch, and this fetch button, this should either say fetch or pull, and you should be able to click this as much as you want. And it should not change anything. It shouldn't pop up an error. And if so, you're good to go. You're ready to go.
Now, mine says pull origin, and it has 3 up, 4 down for the arrows. I just don't want to click pull if it's going to be an issue.
Do you have anything over on the left here?
Nope, we cleared that out. I discarded all the changes.
And you're in this current branch is master?
Yep.
And it's the right, and there's a book. There's a little book icon?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead and click it.
Okay.
See what happens. It should change to say fetch origin. And I'm just clicking it. It's like a fidget toy. I can just click it as much as I want. So is it good? You see fetch?
I see push origin now with 4 up arrow.
Well, so that means you probably have some local changes. Would you mind sharing your screen real quick? We can get this squared away. I just want to make sure everybody is starting from the same place today, because we're going to be doing a lot of coding.
The message that I can't share because someone else is sharing is up.
Oh, whoops. Okay. Is everybody else good though? We all have this.
Yes.
Please speak up if you don't, because we're going to start moving. Okay, so
I'm just having some logistics trying to use 2 computers tonight, but I'm here. I'm just not where you're at, but I will be.
Got it. So down near the bottom, to the left, there's a committed a minute ago. Try doing undo. And all of those changes, you want to get rid of those. So where it says 42 changed files, you want to Control click on that and discard. And definitely nobody, please don't put your capstone in this folder, because we're going to be discarding these changes and you don't want to wipe out so just never put any capstone files into the careers in code classroom code base. Looks like, Latanya, looks like you've been committing a lot to this repository, which is not going to work because can you just keep clicking undo and doing the same thing until you don't see that undo near the bottom? And then you should be okay. And yeah, undo again.
Yeah,
Near the
I'm
bottom.
sorry. You froze up. What did you say? Something about the undo button?
Click it again and just keep doing the same thing until, so go back to change files. Yeah, oh yeah, keep clicking undo, I guess, over and over. Let's see, undo, undo, there you go. Now, what did you just do? Do undo, undo, undo until you can't see that button anymore. There
Oh,
we
it's
go.
gone. Okay.
Okay, so now control click on the 21 change files, discard all, and discard. Why did it, so try it again. Go to 11 change files, control, discard. Okay, there you go. Now you see pull and there's only an 8 down, which is good. That means you don't have any local changes. So you can click on that. And again, yeah, if you want to work on these files on your own, you want to probably make a copy of this folder and a TA can help you. What I would do is don't worry about throwing it away every class. Just if you want to copy out anything you do on your own that's different from what the instructor does, you're going to have to put that somewhere else than this repository because we're going to be resetting this to get the latest code. So if everybody is all set, you should see fetch. I'll go back to sharing and we'll get started. Okay, you can see this. We've got our fetch. And now that we're here and we have everything up to date, this is the best way to get right to the right folder, in my opinion. I mean, I guess I forgot to say this yesterday, but we found this button, open in Visual Studio Code. So no local changes, says fetch, everything's looking good. You can click open in Visual Studio Code. Now I've already opened it here, but I think it will just know that, it will jump to it. If you don't have the right window open, you can do open here and it will open the same folder every time. So it might look like this when it opens, or it might have some folders open, but we're in cohort 2, module 4, and we're still looking at the code from yesterday. So this is W6D1 math problem code. And you might not see any files over here. To reset this and close all the files here, you can click this. If you hover over a list here, you can close them all by clicking that thing. And then you can open up any file you want by double clicking on it. So I'll do problem 1 after, and that has the code. Now, of course, before is empty still. After has similar to the code that we wrote yesterday, but it's got some comments and it has one extra thing. It has this throw new error section, which we didn't put in yesterday. So I'm going to start off by explaining what this is, and we can see why it's needed.
Can you please zoom in?
Yes, sorry. Please remind me because I might forget
Thank
this
you.
every day. Okay. So is this big enough?
Sean says yes.
Okay. I think it's too big. I'll do one less if we can do that. Okay. So just to review, we modeled our algebra problem and solved it without doing any algebra, just by making the computer try every combination of children and adults that there possibly could be if there's a total of 2,200, and then checking each time to see whether the earnings that we would get with that number of children and adults matches what the problem asks us to find. And if so, we've solved it. Otherwise, we were counting up, adding one child to our number here and subtracting one adult. So it always still balanced out and added up to 2,200, and we'd check again. And we didn't have this section here. So I'm going to delete all of this, and I'm going to delete the comments. They're still in the after file, and we'll restore this in a little bit. So I just wanted to get to, this is about where we were at the end of the last class. So if we match, we're solved. Otherwise, try the next combination. And again, this loop tells the computer to keep doing stuff, the stuff inside here, from here to here, over and over and over, as long as we are not solved. And actually, we called this problem is solved yesterday. So I replaced that everywhere. Now, once problem is solved, then not problem is solved is now false. And the computer will say, I'm going to exit this loop, because that's what the while keyword is doing. It's saying only loop while whatever is in here is true. And because true, not true is false, now we've exited because the problem is solved. So all of these names are just, again, a way for us to be able to look at the code. And once you're more comfortable with the conventions of all the JavaScript syntax, all of these, parentheses and this stuff, you'll be able to look at the code and really quickly get a sense of what it's supposed to be doing because of the names that we've given everything. One of the other differences between this sort of programming approach and the more math class algebra approach is that you usually don't want to say, let x equal 50, let y equal, this is what you'd call variables in math class, right? You'd call them, 50, or sorry, you'd call stuff x, y, a, b, things like that. And that's really only because it's more work to write things with a pen and paper than it is to type. So because we have the ability to type, we have the ability to even copy. And in fact, if I start typing the name of this, the tools are so sophisticated that I can just hit the enter key and it will finish it for me. So I really don't have to type this problem is solved all the time. I can type P, enter, and it's the closest thing. Now I might have to do PROB, but in any case, it's much easier to write out a longer name for a variable. So we're preferring to use these names because it's a lot easier than if we are looking at this and this one's X, this one's Y, this one's Z, this one's A, B. You absolutely can write a program like this, D, but then you look at it and you won't have any idea what's going on. This would be D, this would be H maybe, this would be A, this one's X, A times X, B times Y, and so forth. You get where I'm going with this. I'm going to undo all of this because we really don't want to be looking at our program and end up, having to figure out, even saying like with a comment, 2 slashes, X is the number of children. That's still too hard to look at. So we want to use names for these things for a very good reason, and that's to make this thing understandable. One of the things you'll find when you're programming is you spend a whole lot more energy often reading your code than you do writing it. This is true in in my job. I spend much more time reading code and trying to understand what it does than I do writing code.
There's two questions.
Okay.
Mel wants to know, should the addition and subtraction always go before the equal sign under else?
This is a shortcut. So this is the same thing. Oh, I wrote this differently yesterday. So it's just a shortcut way to say children plus 1. So children equals children plus 1. There's a shortcut that's plus equals 1. It means the exact same thing. So it's if you do anything, ASDF equals ASDF plus 1, you can always rewrite that as plus equals 1. So you don't have to type the same thing twice. And I think
So they should come before the equal sign then, always. The
only in this case because we're using the shortcut.
okay.
And thank you though, but I'll reset this to the other way because we haven't really covered that, and I missed that in my final version of this code. So thank you. I'll put these back. Children equals children plus 1. Adults equals adults plus 1. Thanks for noticing that. If you have a good eye for detail, it's going to go a long way with programming. So
And
and it's something you have to train, by the way. You're not going to be really good at it right away. That is definitely a skill that takes practice. Okay.
the next question was from Carolyn, but Elena already answered her. She wanted to know pulling files from the classroom code base into the module folder in order to get the latest exercises that you added. She has the complete set of folders and files that she pulled yesterday, but not sure what to pull for today. So does she choose current branch, master, pull origin?
Yes.
And Elena's told her to pull from the master.
And again, if you've modified any files, you're going to want to control click on 0 change files and do discard them first. And if you want to save a file you've been working on somewhere else, you're going to want to, in VS Code, you can with the file you have that you're working on open and saved, let's say saved, you can go to File, Save As. Now, if you want your own copy, this is what I would do so that you can still discard it for the next day and get the freshest, latest code. If you want to keep a version of a thing you're working on at the end of the day, we'll do this. We'll remind you at the end of today. But if you'd like to save the code that you have been working on that day, you can do File, Save As. And then, you can I would pick a totally different folder to save it. So you could do desktop and, w6d1.js, sure, whatever. You can name it whatever you want. So now the problem is you have a new file open here. So after this, you're going to actually want to close that because you're done. You've saved that, and double click it again here and you want it to match. So that's just managing the file. And don't worry about that. If you don't know what that means, if you can't follow that, just don't worry about it. Wipe away the files at the end of the class. We'll try to make it so that they're pretty close no matter what. And the only reason you'd need to save it is if you were doing some other kind of thing on top of the classwork or separate from the classwork, or you really wanted to save the state of your own file. Reach out to somebody at the end of class. We'll be happy to help you make sure you have it saved. So that's, I think, how I'm going to do it for the next, for my 2 weeks. And I hope Max will probably do the same thing so that we can basically just always know that we're starting from the same files at the start of class. Does that sound good? I'm going to assume yes. All right. So this, we've put these back to where they were yesterday. There's no other questions. Here's where this is going to possibly be a problem. Our approach to solving this problem. If we open a terminal again, so if you remember, the way we want to do that when we open the whole code base here is on the folder where we're working. You want to control click where our files are, the folder right above it. So in this case, W6D1 folder. You want to control click on that and do open in integrated terminal. And that will bring a terminal to the right place so that you don't have to navigate around with the terminal, and you can go right to run node problem 1 after. Today, because it's the after file we're working in now, I'm going to do problem 1 after. And .js is where it ends. And if you run it, nothing happens.
Because you need a minus. You changed them to both plus.
Well, thank you. Okay,
You're
so
welcome.
if you get stuck here, what this means is the computer is running and running and running, and it's just adding and adding and adding these numbers, and it's never going to find anything that matches. So we're stuck. The computer is in an infinite loop. It's never going to solve the problem. And this is the problem I kind of wanted to show you is, and I just did it by accident. So great. So what you can do here in this kind of thing, if nothing is happening and you think, well, gee, I don't have a prompt, I can type, but that doesn't mean, there's no prompt here. My program hasn't exited. So, you hit enter and you see nothing. Nothing prints out. There's none of this. It means your program's still running. So you can end your program the same way you exit out of Node by doing Control-C. And you only have to do it once in this case. So that'll get you back to here. Thank you for noticing my error. We need to subtract 1 from adults. And I'll save this. And remember, the second time you run your program, you only have to press up and enter. And now it works. We have our numbers of children and adults. Should I think I'm going to turn off these closed captions on my own screen.
Can I ask you, so my code, it says module not found, but I can find it. Like, I found it in the Finder. It's here. I have it on my computer.
Module not found. What does it say? Anything else?
So when I did the problem, I did the node problem -1 dash after. It came back as code module not found requires stack, and then it has the 2 square brackets.
Could you quickly share and show me?
Sure. Hold on.
Dominique says she has the same thing too.
Okay, module not found. I'm trying to think what that is, but I think I'll recognize it when I see it.
I actually don't even know like what's going on because I can't even find my code anymore. Like, I pressed enter. Like, I was writing. Oh, here it is. Okay, never mind. Let's go. I'll share it. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'll bring this up a little bit.
Cannot find module. Careers in
Yeah.
code. Okay, so I think what you did is did you go to terminal at the very top of the screen? That's not what we need to be doing.
What do you mean at the very top of the screen?
Very important.
This was already up.
Okay, so you're in the parent folder. I guess I should have said, if that terminal window is open, you should click over to the X on the right there.
Okay,
Close it
sorry,
out.
I didn't know it was already up.
Yeah, it's okay. That's fine. But it's definitely going to do this. For anybody who got the same error, click that X, close that pane for now, and then you're going to want to scroll up a little in your file fold tree there. Scroll up a little more. And then W6D1 math problem, you really do need to control click on that and do open and integrated. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And you can tell whether you're probably in the right folder or not by looking at the end of that. See that prompt down at the bottom? The end should match the folder that you're in. And that should tell you that it's if that matches the folder where your files are directly, the last folder before your files, then you should be in good shape.
Okay, can I ask you a question? I'm gonna stop sharing.
Sure.
But so the terminal that I was just in, does that like automatically pop up by itself? Because it was already up when I opened it from GitHub.
It might have been the last time you opened this project. It was up. It might be your default settings. If you need to navigate to that folder, you can do it with the CD space, the folder name, and then CD space, this folder name, and navigate around with the CD command, which means change directory. I didn't want to do that as the standard way to recommend it, just because this is it's one step and we can get everybody, running their code easier. But if you want to do that, and I think maybe for office hours, I'll do a little, we can talk about navigating around in the terminal and using terminal commands if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we did some, but I guess I would just like want more review because we did learn some stuff.
Okay. Yeah, and that's something that'll take a while. I think it's more important right now to get into the coding, the JavaScript code itself. We're not going to be doing much fancy with the terminal. We're really just using it to run our code now. And that's really all we're going to be doing in the terminal for now. Other than one other thing, which I'm going to show you today, but it's not very much. Okay, so yeah, make sure, I guess when you're in the terminal, you want to make sure that it's got the same folder name as the folder where your files are in, the W6D1 in this case. And if not, you can close that terminal and you can always do the control click, the folder you want to start working in, and do open an integrated terminal. It's the easiest way to get there. Okay, let me share. Okay. So hopefully everybody now can press up, enter, and see the answer here. Now here's where we get the problem I just triggered accidentally. We can basically go to this problem here, or this total here. Let's try changing it so that the problem says the total earnings were $50.51 or $5,051.
I'm sorry, Gus.
Yes.
Usually I'm the one that asks you to make the text bigger, but it's actually, it's going off the screen. I can't see the whole thing.
Okay. Off the screen.
Yeah, like all I'm seeing is that 50-50 equals false, solved, open, curly braces.
Carolyn, check your actual Zoom, like up at the top, it'll say view options.
Yep, I have original size. But then I made the window smaller so maybe that's why.
Is it full screen though? If it's full screen.
No, I'm not full screen because I
Okay.
need to be able to get into VS Code and I can't see what's going on if I don't have those next to each other. All right, I'll figure it out. Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, I could switch to my smaller laptop. That's
No,
which I did-
you're
did that.
fine. And I
Okay.
can always watch this like after 2 and figure out how to do Zoom on both computers. This is a me problem. I didn't know if it was affecting anyone else, but I'll figure it out. It's all right.
Okay, well, one other thing,
Logistics.
yeah. One thing I can try is scale this for this. I don't know if this is gonna explode Zoom or something, but I can make everything bigger by default and then make this a little smaller. Does that help at all?
Oh, that's really good. Is that good
Okay.
for everybody else?
If that works, we'll just go with that.
Oh, you're wonderful. I'm just gonna go get some water and I'll be right back.
Okay,
Seems to be the consensus that it's working. That works good.
great. Okay. Okay, so we have our, oh yeah, we were gonna go to our problem and change it a little so that the problem is basically impossible to solve. So we'll say the 2,200 people attended and $5,051 was collected. Now, spoiler, there is no combination of children and adults which will ever give you this number of earnings. It does not exist. So the computer is going to check every single combination. It will be subtracting adults and adding children, and none of them will match. And in fact, what will happen is the adults will just keep subtracting all the way down to 0 adults, and then it's just going to keep going. And there will be negative adults and 2,201 children. And that doesn't even make sense. That's not even a well-formed concept. So it's the computer method is going to completely break apart if the problem cannot be solved. So I'll just show you real quick. If we try to run this again, is this, oh, here. If we try to run this again, it's going to do what we saw before when we were adding to both children and adults. It will never stop. And that's because, again, the problem has no solution. So we're going to do Control C again to quit. And you see we get our prompt back. And this is where I added the third case in between these. So another thing you can do in JavaScript is instead of if one way and else the other way, we can do we can have a third option, which is if not this, but we're going to check another condition. We're going to check another possibility like this possibility, but it will be a different true or false condition. So you do this by saying else if. And again, we're going to go review these keywords later. So this is, again, this is still like kind of, we're just enjoying getting our feet wet with the coding. We'll explain what these are. But else if, and then we'll put another set of curly brace. So a curly brace at the end here, and the close it here. This is the convention in JavaScript. And else if is the second thing for it to check. So we did not match our earnings. We have not solved the problem, but we also know that the problem can't be solved if we get to 0 adults and we still haven't gotten a solution. So if it checks 0 adults and it still doesn't solve anything, it's going to minus 1 more adult, and we're going to get to -1 adults. And we know at that point, we can't solve this problem because that doesn't mean anything. There can't be -1 adults as part of the solution. There can't be negative anything, so we're never going to solve it. So if the number of adults is less than 0, we know in here that the problem cannot be solved. So this is what I had in the final version of the code that when you check it right out from GitHub, this is what you saw. And in this case, we said throw new error. Now you could just have this console log also. I just wanted to put a new bit of JavaScript. There's a concept of errors, and they're a special kind of way to control how the program runs. And it explicitly does mean that something went wrong. So you can represent that by throwing an error. And the error is written like this with a capital E, and you can put a set of parentheses after this, and you see we're prompted right away with a message string. So this is, you can put single quotes or double quotes and type what you want the error to say. So we can say problem cannot be solved. There is no solution. Or let's say problem has no solution. And a semicolon is nice. And if we click down here and do up enter again, or up return, I just noticed the keys on the Mac say return, up return. It's going to throw our error. And look at all this stuff it also prints out. It has a little pointing caret, which is pointing to this code we just wrote. And it says the file, the full path to the file we were working in, and 18 is actually the line number. So you can see the number here, it's the 18th line in the file. It tells you exactly where the error happened. And then it prints out a bunch of stuff about the error. So obviously all we really cared about is the message. This tells us exactly what's wrong. The problem has no solution. And then the rest of this is what's called a stack trace. So this is the stuff where you look at this and you're like, uh-oh, I don't understand programming. This is a normal thing. You're going to see these in some places for the next couple of weeks. And each time you're going to think, oh no, I can't program. This is just what an error looks like. And you just have to learn to read this. This is just its own kind of little language. So this is telling you a bunch of stuff that I can't really understand, but and often they're completely useless, by the way. But basically it's saying this part's the code that we know about. This part is a bunch of internal Node.js stuff that I have no idea how any of this works. And it would take a long time for me to be able to explain to you what any of this means. So we're going to ignore it. But that's just demonstrating that instead of running forever and hopelessly trying new numbers when we know that there will never be a solution, we can just have another case where it just stops right there. Okay. Are there any other questions? I see some chat. How do I get back to the chat?
Susan says she didn't get an error message.
Okay, do you see this here or nothing?
I didn't get an error message either. I actually got an answer.
Yeah,
I got
oh,
1,000.
yeah. I didn't change anything. Oh, 5051. Let me try that.
Did you say, yeah, you have to change this to 1 and you have to save the file too.
Yep. I didn't see you change that up top.
Yes.
Let me see. Yes, now I got it.
Okay, cool. So this is what, okay.
But Latanya says she made the changes and saved, and she still doesn't have an error message either.
Okay, Latanya, are you seeing the prompt here? If you hit enter, do you see more of this stuff or is it just blank?
When I hit enter, I just get another line.
Okay, so none of this, yeah. So you are probably still running the program and you are never, this part of it is probably not working.
Yeah, I tried to do clear. I remember that from terminal, like the regular terminal on the Mac, but it wasn't working for me.
Can you do Control-C and see if you get this stuff back, this prompt?
And it just keeps giving me a new single line. Is that right?
So you click down here in the bottom in the terminal and you're pressing Control-C
Yes.
and you see nothing.
Nothing. I get a new line. I get the new path, so I can do another command.
No, that's what I mean. You see this. You see
Yes, I have that.
something like Latanya with W6D1 math problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you do node, if you do your command after node, if you press up, you see node problem 1 after.
Yep.
And press enter and you don't get this error?
Nope, I'm getting 1,500 and 700.
Okay, well, I think you didn't update the total earnings in your file to be 5,051 instead of 5,050, because that's the solution for 5,050. There is no solution for 5,051.
Yeah, I changed it and I left the prices the same, 1.5, 4.0.
Are you sure you saved it?
There's an X.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like you're running a program that is not what you're looking at that you've saved, because there definitely is no solution to this at all, much less a solution of 1,500 and 700. There is no solution. So I don't see how that's really possible for it to get a solution.
Mel's saying he got the error without changing the total earnings.
Okay, Mel, did you by chance switch which one is adding and which one is subtracting? Are you by chance adding adults and subtracting children? Or wait, maybe not. Do you have 0 adults and 2,200 children?
You're on mute.
Karen, do we have a way for students to just paste things? Can we just have people paste their entire program into like a Slack channel? Can we just do that right now? Make a new Slack channel and allow people to just paste everything? Because it would be so much easier than sharing the screen if I could just look at each program.
I don't see why not. If like maybe create like a student error channel.
Yeah, student
Yeah.
pasted code channel. Yeah. And you can definitely put it in the normal channel, but I didn't want to pollute it with a bunch of, code stuff if it's for conversations. So that's all. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Latanya, that looks normal, or that looks like the right code. I really, really think you're not running that code in your terminal somehow. If you're not seeing any error, you're seeing the solution? I forget.
That's correct. It's still giving me the initial solution we have for the 550, even though I changed it with the 1.
So, did you save as your file and then continue working in it?
No,
Okay.
no, I've just been doing command.
Try one more thing then. Try reset. You can sort of reset what code you're working on and what terminal you're working in to line up by doing this. You can go to the terminal at the bottom here and close it with close panel with the X here so that the terminal goes away. And then you can close the file with the X up here. Close that. If you have nothing else open, it'll be like this. Then find the folder and the file you're working on here. And first, or it doesn't matter the order, but as long as you do this with the same thing, Control-click the folder, open an integrated terminal, and then double-click the file in that folder. And just make sure you did it with the same things. And then whatever is running in the top really should be what is running, whatever you're editing in the top, really should be what you're running at the bottom.
Oh, okay, I did that. Thank you.
Yep. And if it doesn't work, please holler. Carolyn, these are the numbers from last night, except I changed 50-50 to 50-51, and there is no solution. We're not going to work with the homework numbers because I don't want to give everybody the answer right away. So we will, we can review the homework at the end of the week. How about that? Yay, got an error. Okay, So now this is good because this program will always at least do what we want it to do. If there's no solution, it will tell us there's no solution. Okay. Do you want to, let's do a little class vote real quick. Do you want to keep coding and do another problem, or do you want to switch over to some slides for right now? I'll leave it up to the class. Switch to slides. Okay, everybody's getting a little code fatigue. Okay. Okay. Oh man. Wow, this is going to be a tight vote. Okay, I think I'm seeing more slides, in a little bit more slides. Ooh, oh boy, oh boy. Susan.
I think you would use var for that, Susan.
Susan, we are going to make a program that lets you roll some dice on the terminal screen, and it's not a math problem. So there is a way to demonstrate, but at the lowest level, the most basic thing the computer is doing is math. So it's the easiest thing to show the computer doing. That's really why we're starting there. And you know, I'm trying to find examples of things that are not math problems for most of the classes. And today today's is not. Now we had another problem to do from yesterday that I don't know if we're going to get to. I just wanted to make one other point with this problem, and I'll just directly say what the point is. This is another algebra problem where instead of trying to find a number of children and a number of adults, this problem too, we're trying to find, this is the classic two cars leave from two cities and they go toward each other and the blah, 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 blah. What time do the cars pass each other? This is a problem where the solution doesn't have an integer number. And what I mean is, when we're asking how many children and how many adults, there are only 2,200 possible combinations of children and adults for that, because you can either have 0 children and 2,200 all the way up to the opposite, 2,200 children. And every step in between is one more child and one less adult. You can't have half a child and half an adult. There's no in between there. With this with this second problem, the only thing I wanted to point out with this is that the time that they pass, and I picked really tricky numbers here, so that the time when they pass is actually 1.121495327 hours. And the idea is that the computer is never going to match exactly when it's a continuous kind of problem like that. Does this make sense to anybody? There aren't 2,200 things for the computer to check. There are potentially infinity things for the computer to check, because if you wanted to check the exact position in every instant, there's an infinite number of instants. So this is not as simple to straightforward to just say, have the computer check every possibility. I needed to use the less than, or greater than, less than. The less than here to know when the cars have actually passed. And depending on the step you're using, in this case, the problem, we're going to check every minute, have the cars passed, have the cars passed this minute, have the cars passed. We need to check that one is greater than the other, because they're always going to overshoot a little. And then we're not going to get the exact answer. We're going to get some number of minutes, the next minute, the next even minute. And that's all I wanted to demonstrate with this, is that there are some kinds of problems that would be very easy to tell the computer, check every possible answer. And there are other kinds of problems where it's not. And this second one is a problem where it's not, where you you really would want to figure this out analytically or with the math because the true answer of this is 120 over 107 hours. It's a fraction. It's a decimal that goes on for quite a while. And the computer is not as good at identifying that as the exact answer if we use our tactic here. That's all. So I don't think we're going to spend time going through this problem either. If you want to ask about this, if you want to see it in office hours, let me know. But this is the problem 2 from yesterday. And I think we're just going to leave it alone because it really just was to make 1 point. So let's go switch over to do some lecture slides, and then we can do a different kind of bit of code that is not a math problem for the activity later today. That sounds good to everybody. We'll do that.
Your channel's all set up too, Gus.
Channel, cool.
Yep.
Okay, so student pasted code, yes. All right, this is good. Yeah, and a quick tip. If you want, like Latanya, I'll show with your code. If you copy your code, if you want the code to look more like code and to be monospace typed, you can do this backtick, the key right to the left of the 1, the number 1, you can do 3 times, and Slack will change to this gray box, and this is actually a box for code. And if you paste after that, you'll see it in a much more code looking way. So then hit return, and that'll paste that.
There, at the bottom should have two. Also, you can put like code snippets, I think, at the bottom.
Yep. So here you can do code, and gee, I don't know if it can highlight it even, but I think if you do the lightning bolt, no, maybe not. I don't know if there's any way to highlight it nicely. Code block.
Yeah, that'll probably do the big chunk like sheet is, or you can write, I think, 1 line of code maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so you can wrap something in a single backtick. So you can do 1 backtick and then some stuff and then another one, and it'll make it like that.
Yep.
But to do a whole block, to paste a whole block, do it 3 times and you'll get that gray box. Or yeah, you can do it like this also. Yeah. Cool. All right, so this is great. We can let's prefer to do this if you have a problem with your code and you can't find it. We'll just paste it right into here, and this can be like a stream, and then it'll let me look at it without having to do the whole dance of, share your screen and then this and that. So hopefully that sounds good. Okay. On to the lecture. Okay.
Is everybody able to find the slides? Okay.
Okay. So welcome to day 2 of week 6, module 4. We're still not going to get really into the details of JavaScript that much today. We're going to start a little bit, but I kind of wanted to just start with some more higher level, just general concepts and things that you're going to want to know. So some questions that might be worth considering. The first one is, what is a programmer actually doing? So when I'm at work, or when anybody is doing a hobby program, or when you're trying to write code that solves the thing you're trying to solve, what are you doing? It's not really a math problem. It's not algebra problem. It's not hacking. I mean, hacking is or cracking. It's a very specific, like trying to break into a bank or something. That's not
Translation?
Translation. Okay. From what to what?
Well, Oh, I'm getting an echo from my computer.
Whoops.
You're speaking English. The computer speaks machine code,
Okay.
and you're kind of transliterating in a way, trying to go from one to the other.
That's a pretty good way to put it.
Are you
Anybody
getting
else?
an echo?
Yeah. It's
Okay, I'll fix it.
It's fine. I don't mind. Does anybody else have something, an idea of what do you think? Or I'll just say how I would describe it.
There's a couple answers in the chat. Shah said you're giving instructions to the computer, and Brandy
Okay.
said declaring.
Okay. Those are both in different ways correct. Yeah. So I'm I'm trying to sort of get at like what is the essence? What is really the work that you, the programmer, is doing? And a lot of times you can describe it as taking a larger problem and splitting up a larger thing into smaller things. So you kind of saw this with the problem with the fair, where we say, well, first we're going to, multiply the number of children by the children ticket price and the adults, and we're going to do that calculation to figure out a hypothetical number of earnings. That's like a much smaller bit of this problem, because you do need to check whether your answer is correct. And the same is true kind of in a nested fashion, all the way up to like big programs. You're breaking stuff apart. Later on this week, we'll get into functions, which is what a programming language like JavaScript uses to actually package up a whole bunch of problem solving. You solve this little problem and then you package it up as a function and you give that a name, and then you can call that as one word. You can just say, multiply by 6 could be your function, which is not going to be a very complicated function, but you can package up a small bit of your problem, give it a name, and then reuse that. You, as a programmer, you want to find things that you're assuming, or that the person who's asking you to do the work is assuming a whole bunch of things will happen, and they're not really noticing all of the little details of what that means. Like you might get a sense of this from when you're looking at your wireframes, where you say, oh, I have the page here, the login screen here, which has, these two boxes and the login and the forgot password and everything. And that's it. It's just one wireframe. But you don't notice that, well, when you do forget your password, you have to click on, I forgot my password. And then it has to change to, what is your email? You have to type in your email. And then you have to go over to your email account and link back to somewhere. And that has to understand that you are allowed back into your account because you found the email. So like all of those little pieces are an assumption that somebody might make about how this problem is solved. And your job as a programmer a lot of the time is to track those down, to figure out what those are, and then turn those into code, because the computer will never make those assumptions. It's not going to be able to figure that stuff out on its own. You really have to make all of those assumptions explicit and put them into the computer in the right way so that it can understand them. The thing about this that I think you definitely want to keep in mind and definitely remember, and this is sort of motivational kind of stuff, but like this is important to really understand that when you're solving a problem with the computer, there are so many different ways to slice it up into smaller problems. There are so many different assumptions that you will give an answer to. You will say, well, let's assume that people just never forget their password. That's something you might do. And that's okay. Like there is no right or wrong way to do something. Obviously, you're going to have a problem in a certain case if you do it one way. You're going to have a problem in a certain other case if you do it another way. but there's usually no correct, perfect way to do something. And I see people sometimes, especially more junior programmers, get stuck where they're just looking and looking and looking for the perfect server, for the perfect database, for the perfect way to solve something. And you just get paralyzed because there is really no perfect right way to do things much of the time. The good news is there's also really no wrong way much of the time. Like if it works, then you solved the problem. There are often better or worse ways. We'll probably talk a little bit about the complexity of something. Like for example, when we solve the FAIR problem, you could argue that's a worse way to solve it. We checked every possible answer, and then all we did was save what the right one was. That you could argue that's a worse way to solve that problem than doing the actual algebra, figuring out the thing. But it worked, and it worked very quick. So there's nothing wrong with doing something in a quote unquote worse way if it gets done what you're doing. So there's a very you talk about like software engineering. Engineering is very much always kind of concerned with the practical results. So like regardless of the better or worse, if it does what you need it to do, that's fine. And especially when you're learning, don't worry too much about, whether you're doing something the best way there is. A lot of times that's very hard to do. And people will spend their entire careers looking for an even better way to do one thing. And you don't need to stress out about it that much.
Yeah, you could put 10 programmers together and ask them the same question and wind up with 10 different answers of how they would do it.
Yep, and they might all be not as good as the best way, and that's fine. Like that's totally fine. Or the best known way, a lot of times there's the fastest known search algorithm. That's just what we know today. Okay, I want to do like just a fun exercise if people are into this. I have no idea whether this is going to work or make sense or whatever, but this is something I've heard people do. Let's see. As a way to kind of introduce this, like what you're breaking problems into smaller pieces. You have to be very explicit. We're going to try to do a role-playing exercise. So I have a knife and a plate, and I have bread, whole wheat bread, and I have peanut butter and jelly. And here, let me see. I need to set this up somehow so that I can I'll be right back. Hold on. I'll be right back. All right. I think this will kind of work. You got a table, and here's this. Yeah, again, this is gonna be the first time I've tried this. But the goal is we're gonna role play programming. Pretend that I am a computer and you are the programmers. And the goal, this is all the resources the computer has to work with. So we got memory, we got a screen, a keyboard. It's this. The correct program is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So we want to get the peanut butter and jelly sandwich ready to eat on this plate. And let's go. So what should I do first?
Take yourselves off mute. Start answering.
Bread. You want to get out your bread.
Yeah, take the tie off the bag with the bread in it. Take some bread out.
Take the
There you
tie
go, breaking
off
that
the
task
bread.
down. That's right.
Open the
And you have
bread.
to untwist the twist tie.
Untwist the twist tie.
You had to get the bread and bring it in here.
So
You have to
Pick it
use the
up.
second loaf slice of bread instead of the first piece.
Instead of the butt.
so don't discard the first piece.
No, you save it to keep the bread fresh.
Okay. And Fabelia said, open the bread. So I'm gonna open this bread. Is that right?
Right.
Put the bread. Put the
Do you have a
bread-
Tanya
knife?
says, put one slice on the plate.
Just kill the bread.
That's one way. Remember
Maybe,
he said not all solutions will be right?
yeah, you could have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a hole in one of the slices. That's okay.
She said, actually, both slices on the plate.
Both
Tanya
slices.
says, put both slices on the plate.
Okay.
You need to open the PBJ. So pick up a jar.
You
Open
never
the jar.
checked for mold. You couldn't
Reach
make
your-
me a sandwich.
Any jar. It's undefined.
Reach your
which
hand
jar.
out to grab the jar, and with the other hand, you have to take the top off of it.
So is it his?
You have to
Gus's
turn the
question
lid.
Gus's question is it any jar? Like just any jar?
Peanut
That's
butter
Pick up
jar.
the
There,
peanut butter jar.
That's undefined
The
behavior.
one that's
Just-
right
Well, you
there,
have
the
jelly,
tip.
so you can use a
Oh, he's
jelly.
opening the jelly first. There's a flow chart right there.
So the thing
Okay.
is, the next time you ran the same program, the computer might pick up the peanut butter because you didn't really say which one.
Exactly.
And there's nothing saying which one.
And Latanya said that you could define the other with what's left.
What's defined the other?
Meaning if you picked up the jelly first, that
It's like
you could
process
define the
of
other as
elimination.
peanut butter because that's what's left.
Okay, so you could make a variable saying other jar is the one you haven't opened somehow. Yeah, that's probably a good strategy. Yeah. Again,
Either or,
either one.
Boolean.
Okay, so let's imagine we just got the right slices of bread, but you get the idea, right? We don't need to do this for the very long. You all understand what I'm getting at, right? Like
Make me hungry.
the computer doesn't understand all of your assumptions. That's the lesson. So let's keep going. Pick up knife.
Add the jelly to one slice of bread with a knife.
Add the jelly.
How do you do that? You have to put the knife in, scoop it out, plump it on.
One scoop or two is fine, I
Oh,
guess.
it's already too late, but okay, one scoop.
That wasn't even on the bread. No.
Well, that was a cosmic ray hit the CPU processor, and that wasn't your fault. That
Someone's
was-
Coke spilled on the computer.
Yeah, yep.
Okay,
Someone-
now you have to spread the jelly out on that slice of bread
Okay.
With the knife.
with the knife.
Oh, yeah, right. See, if I knew what I was doing, I would have gone like that.
Oh my goodness. This computer does not know how to do this.
That's the point of the lesson. No computers will know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Okay.
They don't have your
Basically,
reference
you
point,
have to
too.
make your references as clear as if you were making a wish to a genie, because if not, the computer and the genie are gonna mess it up.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Your-
That's very
Your
good.
references, it doesn't get.
The computer isn't going to prank you like a genie would, but the computer will simply not be able to understand. Yeah. So you could say next instruction, obviously this is my right hand. So pick up peanut butter jar with right hand, put down knife with left hand, grab top of lid with left hand, twist lid counterclockwise, not clockwise, with left hand.
Right. And you
So
twist
forth.
them on. But if you're left-handed, this has to be different.
Peel back the what is that called? What is that called?
Well,
It's a variable.
freshness lid.
the plastic peeling with your right hand.
The freshness seal.
Yes, that's what it's called. Thank
That's
you.
what it is.
This would be easier if I put down the lid first.
Oh, you didn't put down the lid? I guess you could put down the lid.
Okay.
You know what this reminds me of when I was studying special ed, this thing called task analysis. You know, you break something down like we're doing now.
Now you pick up the
You don't
knife with
realize
your
how
right
much-
hand and spread 1 tablespoon of peanut butter on the other slice of bread.
Invalid.
necessarily.
Exception, error. There is no peanut butter on the knife to spread.
Yeah.
You have to put the knife
No, I
in the
said that. I
jar.
said you had to scoop it out. You had to scoop out 1 tablespoon.
You have to repeat steps 3 through 5 with the peanut butter
Yeah, you have to restart
or
your
whatever.
Sounds like a loop.
A loop.
I don't know. Did you really
It's a
say
loop.
scoop out?
She
or
did.
you
She
say
said, yeah,
spread?
no, she said scoop out 1 tablespoon of peanut butter
Okay.
and then spread that on
The opposite slice
other-
of bread.
slice of bread.
Okay. I'm not going to go into the whole put down the peanut butter jar, pick up the bread, spread this. Okay.
It doesn't look very good.
Okay. Now
It's not
what?
supposed to look good. My kid would eat it. And they don't
Put
Now
down
eat
the
it.
you
knife.
put both
My
slices
video's
of
on.
bread together with the
Sorry.
filling facing in.
We'll put down the knife first.
I'm trying to figure out a way to genie that one. It's pretty good though. Fillings face each other.
Yes.
Good call.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because
kinda
you
good
would have
to know.
put it opposite.
Okay. Good job, everyone. We got it. I mean, you get the idea. This is the computer is going to misunderstand your assumptions. You're going to think, well, this is 1 or 2 things to tell it. It's actually 50, 100, 1,000, depending on what you're working on. All right. I'm gonna wrap this up so I can eat it later. I'll be right back.
That was a fun exercise.
It was fun.
I thought he left the class. I thought he just decided I'm done. I'm out of here. No, not really. He goes, I'll be
Probably
right back.
scarfing down the sandwich, wrapping it up for later.
Yes.
That's what I would be doing. I'd be in the kitchen
Mhm.
scarfing it down.
This is what I needed tonight.
Just got hungry.
Want some chocolate?
I told you it was going to be fun.
Oh,
It was a nice,
God.
ah,
That was funny.
good. All right. It went all right. I mean, I think it's easier to get laughs if nobody has seen that before. I think a couple of you have already seen that. But anyway,
Me too, Susan.
okay. Back to
Yeah,
this.
me too.
Yeah, if do wow, it's almost 7. Should we break? Let's break after 3 more slides. Sound good?
Sure.
All right.
Oh, man.
Okay. So yeah, that hopefully makes some sense. Next question. What is JavaScript? What is it? It's not Java. That's I know that's like
Program to make
something-
web pages do whatever you want.
Okay. That's
Responsiveness. What she said.
JavaScript is pretty much a functionality or the logic portion of the website, right?
Yep.
No?
Randy says an implicit language.
I think it's more, well, it's more like dynamic. That's what people call it. So actually the answer here, it's an imperative dynamic scripting language. So imperative is again, or from yesterday, if you remember, imperative is, it's like a series of steps. It's like the peanut butter steps. It's not like a wizard spell where you say, I want a form here. I want it to look like, I want this section, this header, this div. You're telling the computer what to do in order, each thing that it should do. And if you were going to make a form, you would say, something like, I would like to have a list of pixels that are going to be describing a rectangle. And then I would like to have the outer edge of each of those pixels be a darker color for the border of the input box, and so forth. Now, you don't really have to do that with at that level, but that's more like, you know, how you would make the same kind of form with an imperative language. It's dynamic because we'll get into this in a little bit today, but there are other languages where when you say that something is a string, it's always a string. It's those bits can only represent word, like text. JavaScript, you can say that var, let x equals 5, and then later on you can say x equals the string red, and that's okay. JavaScript will say, okay, well, now x is something different. That's a newer thing in programming languages. And in fact, later, right after this, we're going to talk about TypeScript, where that's not true. TypeScript will say, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. You should keep it as one type. Yeah, it lets you make web pages. Whoops. It lets you make web pages and more. Like Node.js is outside of web pages. So Node.js, you can do servers. You can do all kinds of other programs. You can do services that talk to, computers that talk to other computers. You could make video games that run on a desktop, not in a web browser, all with JavaScript. It is a full programming language. It's what's called Turing complete. This is Alan Turing, I think he worked on like breaking Nazi codes in World War II for the British Intelligence Service, and was also like one of the early writers about the theory of computers, and came up with this theory that says almost anything that computation can do, or anything that computation can do, can be represented as basically a machine that writes a number on a long, infinitely long strip of tape. This is all hypothetical, like this is not a practical thing to do. But in theory, you can theorize a machine that writes numbers on an infinitely long strip of tape, and it can write, it can erase, and it can read the numbers off of the tape. And if your programming language can do those things, and JavaScript can, then it can compute literally anything that can be computed. So JavaScript can, in principle, do anything that a computer can do. Maybe not as fast as some other languages, sure, but it should be able to do anything that any other programming language can do. Yeah, I forget what that movie is called, but there's a biopic about Alan Turing. It's not, I don't remember what it's called. If someone, you can probably find it. Biopic about Alan Turing. HTML. Oh yes, the imitation game. Yes, he also invented the Turing test. This is a famous thing where it's like, is a computer like a person? And the hypothetical was, if somebody in a chat with a computer cannot tell the difference between the computer and a person pretending, or a computer pretending to be a person and a person chatting, if somebody else can't tell the difference, then it's as good, it's an artificial intelligence or something like that. And that was the name of that thought experiment, and that was also from Alan Turing. Yeah, the thing is, HTML as a markup language, it's actually not Turing complete. It cannot do the things that all the other programming languages that are Turing complete can do. So HTML, that's why I said yesterday, HTML is not really fully a programming language. It is a declarative language, but it's a markup language, not really a programming language. Okay. what is this TypeScript that I talk about? Now, Max, I don't know how Max is going to feel about this, or Jesse. I don't know if I'm supposed to be like hyping TypeScript because this is supposed to be a JavaScript course. But does anybody have any idea what the difference is?
Does anybody
It's just like the ending of your file name, right? Or something like that.
The file extension, yes, that is one of the practical differences that you would do. Your files would end in .ts instead of .js, and then VS Code will understand them as TypeScript files, and it will put a whole lot more strict checking of your code than you will get from JavaScript. So TypeScript is a different language. It is, they call it a superset of JavaScript, meaning all JavaScript code can also be run as TypeScript. The syntax of JavaScript, the semicolons and the curly braces and everything like that is all compatible with TypeScript. But TypeScript adds more capabilities. You can put other things in there, which by the way, we are not going to go into in this class. I am not going to go into like how to describe types in these weeks. We might do it, we can mess with it in office hours. But I still might want to recommend considering using it for your capstone. And I might get some pushback on this from the other instructors. I'm not sure, because of it is harder to set up. And I'll show you this today. We'll try this today. If you notice, the after file for today's exercise is a .ts file. It is harder to set up, but if you use this, then VS Code is going to be able to do a lot more to point out when you're making mistakes and to help you fix errors sooner than otherwise. So
Carolyn wants to know if TypeScript is a higher level than JS.
In what sense? Is it a higher level language? Like, is it all made up of JavaScript under the hood? Is that what you mean?
You're on mute, Carolyn.
Yeah, or kind of like the new improved, 2.0, but they still work together, but it's like better or something. I don't
So
know.
that's what Microsoft would want you to think. That's what it's their kind of project, and it gets some pushback because people are like, oh, it's classic. Microsoft they do a thing called embrace, extend, extinguish, which is they make a better version of something and then try to kill off the old version of the thing, and then they own the ecosystem. So it's a classic like possibility that is, well, the fact is we're already using VS Code, and it's not better necessarily than JavaScript in a vacuum, but it does convert into JavaScript when you run it in a browser. So that's one of the problems with it. Is one of the things you have to manage is a compiler or a transpiler, it's called, to convert TypeScript into JavaScript, because the browser is going to really just be running JavaScript, and you need to end up with JavaScript to be able to run it in your browser. So like that's what I mean with harder to set up. So really the answer is to like, should you use TypeScript for your capstone? The answer is maybe, if you're willing to put up with harder to set up stuff. It's a trade-off. I think it might save you some frustration. I think this really has to be up to everybody. And here is a classic example of there is no right and wrong way to do. There is no right and wrong choice here that I can say is the right and wrong choice for everybody. Either way you go is going to be frustrating in different ways. So if you would prefer to have a more involved setup, have to use more tool chain, more like a transpiler to process your code. And once we get into React, by the way, it won't be that hard. It won't be that different because you're going to be using a transpiler anyway. You're going to be using Webpack, which is a thing that does all this anyway. So it will be a little closer, but if you want to go that way so that you can have better detection of problems and better suggestions of like what your options are in code, then you would want to do TypeScript. If not, you would want to do JavaScript. For my work, for the stuff that I do that's websites at work, we've gone all to TypeScript. And it's because we have to maintain programs that live for years and years and years and have 50,000 lines of code maybe, or like so much code. And at that point, the setup is not really that much of our time. The time is in the mistakes and the errors and everything. So we're definitely on, in the category where we get a lot of benefit from it, but I don't know how that works out for everybody. So this is just maybe one of the first of these choices of like, there is going to be no perfectly right answer to this. So,
Excuse me, Gus.
yes.
This is Latonia. Can you give us an example of like what kind of page would be ideal for TypeScript? Like a backend admin page, or just like what kind of?
So like if you were going to write something like, what's a good web application that you like to use? Like, like GitHub itself, like github.com. A very large application with a lot of dynamic, things and a lot of features. You might want to use TypeScript. It's really largely a function of how much JavaScript you're maintaining. If it's a lot and it's going to be around for a long time, then it's worth it. It might be worth it. Like I have colleagues who say it's worth it no matter what. Even it's always going to be, or it's pretty much always going to be worth it. If you work on something for longer than a week, then it's worth it. And yeah, it's not easy to give a good answer to that.
What about something like Amazon?
Yeah, basically any large website that you can think of, I would say yes, because those websites have all been being maintained. They've been under maintenance for years and years and years and years. And so much of the work goes into avoiding mistakes and fixing errors. And anything that will help with that is probably worth it because the code is so big. There are so many possible errors. There's so many existing things that can possibly break that, you would, yeah. So not all the instructors are going to agree, and I don't want to get everybody like, but here is the slide. This is to show Max if he has a problem with this. This is TypeScript. In 2017, it took over the 10th place of most used languages. These are the most used languages on GitHub from Objective-C, which is a thing for Apple for Macs and iPhones. In 2017, it was 10th place, the 10th most popular language on GitHub. This year, it is number 4. It's only behind JavaScript itself, which as you can see is just the most used language anywhere, Python and Java. So there's clearly, nothing else has this trend, and it's because it's useful. My argument is because it is legitimately useful. That's why so many people are using it. So I don't know if that's going to convince anyone. Again, it's more difficult to set up. So I'll show you this today. We're gonna do a little bit of the setup, and it's a lot of stuff you're gonna have to learn to do anyway. But even to just get started using it, it's gonna be more than there is for just JavaScript.
Lana says she feels like it would be easier to use TypeScript in the long run and that at least you have facts to back up your argument, not just an opinion.
Well, thank you, but this is like a classic, programmer herd mentality. They're all herding towards TypeScript. I mean, I don't know if that really proves anything other than it is very popular. And I think the popularity is not a fluke. I don't think it's just a fad, but that's my personal opinion. So yeah, it's not been around for very long. It's not like JavaScript where it's going to be around for a very long time, but I'm pretty sure it will be. It had a competitor, another typed version of JavaScript that Facebook made called Flow, and that has since kind of just been that kind of did not make it. TypeScript made it. It's here for a while because it's pretty.
Yeah, I've actually seen more and more people. They're like, oh no, I use TypeScript.
Yeah, and the thing is, it is VS Code, by the way, is written in TypeScript. So the program you're using as your editor itself not only supports TypeScript, but it is itself written in TypeScript. So like if you're already using that editor, it's going to work very well with it. But again, it's still harder to set up than just writing JavaScript and putting it on a web page. It's going to be more involved. So there's more setup. The payoff, I would argue, is probably worth it in the long term. But I think you just have to decide whether you're going to want to take that on, because the other thing to consider is that not every instructor is as used to it. It's newer. It has all the problems of things that are newer. So again, like there is no, if there was a clear answer to which one you should use, I would be saying it. And I am not going to say that. What I'm confident in, though, is that it's worth considering. That's all. And I'm just going to show you what it's like, and you should try it and you should see what it's like and see whether you think it's worth it yourself. That's what my recommendation is to everybody. Okay. All right, let's take a break and then we can ask, what is a computer? Yeah, does it sound good?
What time do you want them to come back?
What's a normal break time? Like 10
to 15 minutes is the average.
Okay, let's do 10 minutes. And yeah, and do we want, let's do another quick survey. Do people want to do more coding today very much, or do you want to just do some more slides for the rest of the day and focus on that more?
So thumbs up if you want to do coding, and I guess the open mouth if you want to do more slides. I don't know.
So if we do the slides tonight, is tomorrow majority coding then?
I think we're going to have to get to some coding.
No. That's what I'm asking. Like, I'd rather spend tomorrow's class coding and finishing the slides tonight versus coding and then finishing slides and then doing more coding tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So tomorrow, if we do more, I think tomorrow is going to be mostly slides no matter what, because we need to get into some of the fundamentals of JavaScript. And there will be a little bit of code, but it's not going to be writing a whole program for a little while, because we need to just be looking at the little pieces and starting to understand what those are. So the coding is not going to be what we saw yesterday or today, where we're doing a whole program, until probably next week, no matter what. And I think my exercise for today, I'm not going to do unless you really want to see another sample program and you really want to see TypeScript and you want to see code today. Oh, there's no right answers to things. Okay.
So Latanya says yes, agree. Dominique says agreed. Carolyn says no preference. Susan says she'd like to see another sample.
Okay.
Latanya, she'd like to code more. Dominique wants to see another sample. Elena says code. Brielle says code. Fabio says no preference.
Okay. Okay.
So I would say it looks like maybe the majority is code.
Yeah, let's do that then. And let's not spend too much time on the what is a computer thing. because this is really what the video was explaining, the Richard Feynman video from yesterday. So you really can watch that. He's going to be better at explaining it than me. Yeah, and I have a quote from, so why don't we just say, let's skip this, the bits and the flipping. And if you are interested in this, I would say watch that video. If you're really, really interested in this, there's a whole book about what computers are like and how they really work. And it will take you literally from switches and light bulbs switching on and off, all the way up to what a full computer was like in about the year 1980. So there's still obviously much more complicated since 1980, but this book will show you what a computer really is. And since then, everything's built on the same really fundamental principles. So if you really want to know what the computer is doing, and you are willing to spend like a year reading this book because it will kick your ass, you could, this link in the slides is a good book for doing that. So I would watch the Richard Feynman video if you want a sense of this same thing explained in a slightly different way, but a very good way. And then if you're really into this, there's a whole book about it, but I don't think it's really going to help your capstone very much. I think you'll get the sense of like what the code is doing as you pick it up, no matter what. So let's just not spend time on this today, and go right to some examples. But first a break, and we'll answer a couple more questions, and we'll leave the basics and things for tomorrow. So I'll put those slides tomorrow, and we'll do some more code today. Does that sound good? Yes.
Yep, I think so.
Okay, we'll see you in 10, 15 minutes. Let's do 7:30, and see you back here. And I'm not going anywhere, so I'm just gonna put on some background music. Whoops.
I'll be right back, Gus.
Yep. No big deal. If anyone, well, I guess I should ask if anyone wants help during the break, let me know.
We usually will stay and ask questions if we do on break.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent you a question in the chat, but there's no like rush, and if you don't answer it, that's fine.
Oh,
Yes, I'm actually, when we did the application process, I started looking at Python, and I'm just really interested in it.
yeah.
Just because I think in general, data, big data, I mean, it's already been huge, and being able to work with that stuff. So if there was some way to finagle some sort of something,
So
I'd be interested.
do you think you would want to learn from a book? Do you think like you have kind of like because you seem to be really motivated to be getting this stuff, to be getting it down. I do know a very good Python book. And I mean, obviously, of course, I'm happy to do that, but I would maybe not worry about it immediately, because the second programming language you learn is going to be easier than the first, and everything after that, it's going to, once you're in the mentality of it, you're going to notice similarities everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I can start with the book. I mean, I'm pretty good with videos, and I just like a mixed bag, but at some point I do like to do some hands-on stuff.
Yeah, well, this book is like very much there's activities. It's like a real, it's like a full, like if you do everything the book tells you to do, it is like a full way to, it's called Learn Python the Hard Way. And I'm pretty sure you can get it free. Oh no. Oh no, is it no longer free?
That's okay. I'll look at Barnes and Nobles and see if they
Okay.
have.
You have a stipend, right?
Oh yeah, yep. I can see if it'll cover it. I already bought one book, so I don't know if we can do
Okay.
that again, but did you find the cover of it so I can at least know what it is? Is it that blue one right there?
Um,
That's over to the right by the arrow. Yep, that looks like it.
oh, I can't see. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's by Zed Shaw. Yeah.
Okay. Zed Show. Okay. Yeah, I can look for that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a bummer if it's not free anymore. Let's see. Oh, here. Learn Python the hard way. Here's a PDF. Oh, somebody just, here's a pirated version if you want it.
That's so funny. Can you send me the link?
Yep. You didn't get this from me.
Okay.
I don't know if this is pirated. I just found it on Google. So it's
It
Google's
can't
fault.
be.
It's not my fault. Sue them.
Yeah, they have it at Barnes and Nobles. It's about $40.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like, man, I liked this more when it was a web. It was used to be a website and you could like, but one of the things that it says is don't copy and paste the code from the book into your editor. Don't ever copy and paste code if you have the time to type it. Always prefer to type it because it's training your fingers and you're gonna retain it much better.
Okay.
So,
yeah, muscle memory. Okay, good.
oh
Thank
yeah.
you for that.
Go through each exercise, type in each sample exactly, and then make it run. That's the method. I agree with that.
That's
Attention
awesome.
to detail. Very good points. Reading and writing, attention to detail, spotting differences. Do not copy paste. All of these are like right on point. These are correct. This is important. These are the skills, not math solving, not algebra skills. I mean, it's good to have some algebra proficiency, but you know, those are the skills that really you need to develop as a programmer, you know?
Okay. Yeah, practice and persistence for sure. Okay. Now, are we going to have enough time to learn all the stuff we need to in the next 2 weeks? Because I just feel like 2 weeks is not going to be enough for this topic. And I know we do self-study and
Well, so this
Word.
module is 4 weeks long, actually.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So Max is taking over for the second half of fundamental programming, but I think this is a 4-week module. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I misunderstood that. Sorry.
It's
Okay.
okay.
It
And
is.
also
Go
it's
back.
gonna start ramping up
Okay, good.
pretty soon. So
Yeah, I think when we do like those intense coding period, like it helps me, even if like I have to struggle with it, it still just helps. So just
okay. Good.
curious. All right, I'll stop talking. I'll let some folks get a break and
Yeah, no problem. If anyone else wants help, let me know. I don't know who's out there. Oops. Oh no, I'm running out of time. I should have eaten some peanut butter sandwich. Well, that's pretty good.
I'm back.
Yeah. Strictly deal on expansion.
Hey, so whoever's back, would you mind going back to GitHub Desktop and hitting that fetch pull button again? I just made a change to the after file, which is gonna prevent you from accidentally frying your terminal, sort of. Not really, but it'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it too much, but I forgot to do a thing that is important. And Karen, are you back? Oh,
Yep.
Could we start rounding up? I don't know how we do this remotely, but
They just pop back in
okay.
when they're done. They're supposed to keep track of it. So, like, I give them maybe another minute and then just start teaching.
Sounds good.
I'm here.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to discard these changes. Yeah, if everyone doesn't mind, could you pop back to GitHub Desktop and hit pull fetch? Yeah, thank you. It's okay if not, because we're going to type this all in for this coding exercise. Okay. So someone mentioned, like, can we do anything with computers that is not a math problem? Or, like, why is it always a math problem? So for today, like, what I want to do is another exercise where we write a program that you might not understand all the parts. That's okay. We're going to go through those starting tomorrow. But this is to show basically two things. That, number one, we can do something that kind of functions and does a thing that's interesting and useful, that's not just solving some math problem or being a calculator. And number two, I'm going to show you TypeScript and like what it can do for the program. So if you pull the latest, you should have a W6D2 Yahtzee folder here. And this is we're going to do a couple things which all kind of fall into setting things up for TypeScript to work. So if you look at the Yahtzee after .ts file, this is what we're going to end up with as code that's written. It looks just like the same as JavaScript, but it's a TypeScript file. Now it should all be valid, but you might see, I don't know if anybody sees, you might see a red line under this. I don't see it, but you might see this because we haven't done part of the setup yet. Does anybody see that under this require a red line?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And a lot
Yeah,
of people
Sarah
in the chat
does,
do.
Shaw does.
And if you hover over it, it'll say something like, could not find module. Do you need types/node something, right?
Yeah. It says,
Okay.
do you need to install type definitions for Node?
Okay, so here is one of the only times in this whole course we're going to use a terminal window that is the up here terminal. So clicking up here and doing new terminal. And you can see in the prompt, this is at the top level folder. And if you have a sharp eye, you've noticed that there are new files that you pulled from GitHub all the way at the bottom here, package lock and package. And we're going to do something we're not going to talk about until a little later called installing a node package. And this is just so that we can do some setup so that we can look at TypeScript. That's it. So don't worry about what exactly we're doing. You just want to make sure that you have a new terminal and that your prompt looks like this. It has the careers in code classroom code base at the bottom. So
Sorry, Gus, this is
Yeah.
Carolyn.
Yeah.
I put that stuff in my CIC, my code to be sure it stays there and I don't interfere with where it came from. So mine will just be in CIC, my code. Is that all right?
Well, you need to make sure you have this.
I do.
Okay, and you need to make sure you have this folder. And then you're fine. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
That's okay.
Yeah, I pulled everything from there, but then I put it in my own. So if I push anything up
fine.
anywhere, it goes back to me.
If
All right.
if you know how to manipulate the files and open the right folder in VS Code, that's totally fine. You don't have to work in the same folder.
Okay,
That's
kind of a sacred folder. And if I
Yeah.
go to push something up, I don't want to push it up to the class code base. So
Well, it's
thank
not
you.
going to, you're not, the permissions, nobody can push. It's going to error instead. So.
Oh,
you're-
okay.
if
So
you see
I
an
could
error
keep it
there-
in there, I guess.
Yeah, if you keep it in there, it's fine, but you might have to clear your changes before you can pull because like we saw that it'll show an error otherwise.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just was kind of, okay, maybe I'll do that later. I'll switch back. But for now,
Yep.
my prompt has CIC, my code. But anyway, I'm with you. Thank you.
Okay, so you should see these here and your terminal should see careers in code classroom code base. And we're going to do, if we do that, we're going to run, and I will delete, don't worry about what I'm doing here. This is just so that I get the same result that all of you get. So what you should do is type npm space I. And npm means node package manager. So we're going to be installing some JavaScript code that is not already on our computer, but that we can use in our program from our JavaScript program in the node environment. So npm space I means install. And as long as you have the files at the bottom, all the way at the bottom here, this should do something, and then it will say added one package. You want to be sure that it says added one package. And if you don't see that, please speak up. So now if you go back to that same folder, the red line should be gone. If you did it right, this here should, and I'll do it one more time. Well, no, actually, yeah, the red line should be gone from here if you did it right. Is that
Can
happening?
you repeat that one more time or just do it one more time?
Sure. So don't worry what I'm doing right now. Definitely don't type this in. Oh, come on. So npm I is what you want to type in, and you want to see added one package. If you do it again, you'll see audited one package. That's okay too. That means you did it twice.
Mine
you
says
definitely-
Is it okay if my, I'm sorry, go ahead, Susan.
Sorry, mine just says added 4 and audited 5, but I still have the red line.
Are you sure you ran it from a terminal that ends with a prompt that says careers in code classroom code base at the
I
end?
definitely didn't. I don't know how to get into that from
So again,
all the way to the top.
only time we do, this is like one of the only times we're gonna do terminal from all the way at the top. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'll
do
try
that
again.
first and then run. And we're gonna do what you did anyway, Susan. So like you can just, that's fine. Like we're gonna do it in both places. And this is just one of those things so that TypeScript is set up nicer for us to use. And
So, is it okay if mine says added one package and audited two packages?
Yeah, mine did that.
probably, yeah.
Okay.
Really the main thing is that if you don't see the red line anymore, then you're in good shape. Okay, red line is gone. Carolyn, you still see it?
Yes, I still see it, but I now understand what we're doing. We are trying to change something at the highest level.
At
for
the highest level, you want to run npmi from the highest level.
So I need to get into that directory.
Well, you just can do terminal, new terminal. Oh, if you don't have the highest level open, yeah. This is why we want to open it from GitHub, is so that it's so that these instructions work.
Okay.
Carolyn, I would recommend just don't worry about it. Just open the GitHub folder directly. You can't break anything.
Backup state. Week 6.
So you want to run it from a folder called this. Your prompt should definitely look like this: careers in code classroom code base.
Yeah.
And then you want to run npmi, and it should say added or audited one package. And if you're not going to open the classroom code base folder, we're probably just going to have to follow up later, because it's rather subtly complicated what we're doing here, and these instructions only work for the specific setup we have here. So if you want to open a different folder in VS Code, that's fine, but we'll have to visit that at the end of class to get this working. And Carolyn, in that case, it's fine to just not name the file with the TS extension, then you're fine. This is the only thing that we are doing all this for, is so we can just try TypeScript. That's it. So I'm going to keep going. But yeah, I'm just saying that if you want to get it all working, just wait after class, it's fine, or come to the office hours, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. So now that we've done that, we see added one package. Let's do our old style terminal again. So control, click on this W6D2 Yahtzee, open this one in integrated terminal. And by the way, all of our other terminals are still open, so let's not even worry about that. But eventually, it's good to just restart your VS Code. And again, come to office hours after class. I don't want to try to, this is just the easiest, most expedient way to get everybody up and running. So this is my 7th terminal. It's fine. Who cares? You can make as many as you want. So you should see now W6D2 Yahtzee if you at the prompt here, which means you're in the right folder. And we're going to do the exact same thing, npm I. This time it's because we're using a package that's going to allow us to process input. It'll allow us to type into our program while it's running, and it will allow us to process that. So this line here is going to use an installed package, but first we need to install it. And I've put this package file in that folder too. So this is the same kind of thing as the one all the way at the bottom, but we need to run npmi again because we're now in the other place and we're installing the actual package that this program is going to need. So we're going to do npmi and enter. And because I already did it, I see audited for packages. And I think, Susan, that's what you saw, added for packages, something like that, right?
Yeah, now it says up to date since I went back and did it in the
Okay.
code base and then did this one again.
So as long as, this is a good sign if you see the W6D2 Yahtzee, and if you see something like for packages, either added or audited, if you run it the second time, you'll see audited. And that's good. So we're all set to go now. Our TypeScript should be, it should have no errors for this program. And we should have the package that we need, this special thing called prompt sync, already installed and ready to go so that we can build a little program. So I'm gonna pull this up on the other screen, and then I will type into a brand new file. And this one is Yahtzee before. So you'll see it's a Yahtzee before.js. It's an empty file, and it's a JS file. So I think halfway through this, we'll change it over to a TypeScript file, and I'll show you how it's basically the same thing, but the editor will behave in a different way. So you'll be able to see the difference between them. Okay, let me just grab this, pull it up here so that I can pretend to know how to code. I'm a wizard coder who just types things and they work. This is not realistic, by the way. Karen can probably tell you the story about when I tried to make a calculator in the last cohort and completely couldn't figure it out and got very frustrated. And rather than doing that, I will just tell everybody it was not fun for me, but some of the students said it was nice to see that instructors are failing at programming too. So just imagine that normally I would make a lot of mistakes doing this. And I've already done it ahead of time this time. So, okay. Oh, come on. So open this code base and pull this up. Okay, Yahtzee. Okay. So this first line, I'm just going to copy right out of here, and you could do the same because, well, we'll type everything. It's good practice for your fingers. Let's type. So we're going to do const. Remember, this is a variable that's not going to change. Prompt sync. And this is just using the thing that we just installed with npm I at the in the terminal. So we're going to pull this into our program so that we can use it. And you do this in Node by saying require. You open parentheses and give it the name of the package you are requiring. And it actually already knows that it has that available. So it's finished it for me. As soon as I do PROM, I can hit enter and it will finish it. And then I'll go over to the end of the line. And because of the way this is set up, this is just how this package works. You have to run this imported thing as a function. What's going on? Oh, it wasn't letting me type. Okay. You have to run this imported thing as a function, so you need to do another parentheses right after that. So close this parentheses and then open one right away. And inside here, we actually do need to include, this is the last change I checked in, because I had it empty before, just like this. But that causes the program to lock your terminal so you can't exit it, even with Control-C sometimes. And that is a problem. So you need to pass it a special parameter, which I just found out about. And you certainly are not expected to understand what this is, but this is sigint true. This basically just means Control-C will allow you to exit our program. That's all that means. So we'll end the line with a semicolon. And that's our first line. So we've pulled in the thing we installed, and this looks like a big mess. Later on, importing code that you install won't look quite so messy and every time. It'll look much neater in a lot of cases, but because we're working in Node and because of many other things, this one is very messy looking line. And I would not be able to write this from memory, by the way. This is something I had to look up and try a couple times. So we have this is just going to let us read code or read text from the user. So for example, I'll show you this. We can say, let's just do a very, very quick demonstration of what this program does. So I can say const input equals prompt sync, and you run this as a function, and you can probably figure out now, running a function looks like this with parentheses. Don't worry about what a function is. Get to that later this week. I'm going to stop trying to explain the bits of this because everybody's lost by that, and we're just typing some code. So you're going to give this a string here and say, what's the input? Oh, never mind. What is the input? Question mark. Semicolon at the end. And we're going to console.log the input. Okay, and that's all. So we're going to save this, and we're going to click down into our terminal, double check that it says W6D2 Yahtzee, and we're going to do node Yahtzee dash before.js. And we'll hit enter, and it prints what we typed here. And then it waits. It's waiting for me to type something else. So the input will be blah. And it's going to print, it's going to console.log the same thing. And that's all this is doing. This lets us ask the user, while we're running our program, it allows us to ask the user to type something. And then the program can actually grab the value of that. And you can see right here, the value is input. So I could log it twice. So I'll save this. And now we can just do up return. What is the input? ASDF, and it logs it twice. So now we have access to something the user is inputting. So with all this, what we can do here is we can build a interactive program that allows the user to interact with it. And what this program will do is basically pretend to roll a set of dice so that you can basically play a game of Yahtzee with your terminal and see the entire thing in your terminal. And it will actually even look like dice.
Yes.
Because we can make a character, a text character that actually looks like a dice. There is a character like that. And I'll show you that in a second. So first of all, we're going to make a variable that is going to store just all of our dice characters. So we'll call this, we'll say const, and we'll call this dice. I'll just make it all camel case. I know in the example it's capital, but I'm going to do dice symbols like this, equals. Square brackets are next to the O and P characters, no shift, just that next one over there, the square bracket. And this gives us a way to make a list of things. So we have an array, it's called in computer terminology, that basically a whole series of things. And this is going to give us a way to show the dice symbols from one dice dot to 6 dice dots, because that's what it looks like. Now, I've cheated a little here and I've pasted into the CIC Cohort 2 channel in Slack a dice. Wait, oh, I need to get all of them. Hang on.
No.
That's just a text character, which is the dice symbols.
Error problem has no solution at the object.
Oh. Okay. So we can grab this out of Slack, copy that, and I can actually say that the first symbol is this, and I can paste it, and you can see in VS Code, even this, it's a character. It's a text character that is perfectly valid to put in a string, but it's actually a die with 1 dot showing. And oh man, I need to get all 6 of them. Hang on. Here we go. Okay. Bear with me, I'll paste all of them one at a time. That's the 2. That's the 3. There's the 4, 5, 6. So I'm just going to grab all of them at once, copy. Oh, there's a bunch of junk. Oh man, this is not where I'll do them one at a time. Okay, so quotes, number 2. Quotes number 3, 4, and each line needs to end with a comma here. 5, and 6. Well, this is a bit tedious. But now we have a list of 6 different dice symbols that are all text. And we can make a program now that will choose some of these at random from our list. And it will basically simulate actually rolling a die. And then we can use this in place of a real die if we ever want to do a random roll. So we're going to say, we're going to make a new array here, and we're going to call this rolled dice. And we're going to say this is an empty array. So this is just open square bracket, close square bracket next to the P character on the keyboard. And then we do a loop. Let's say for. Now this is another way to tell the computer to do a loop. You use the word for, and you put in some extra, some conditions here, and there's actually 3 parts that go inside the parentheses for a for loop. The first is like this. Let, the convention is to use I equals 0. And then a semicolon. Inside this whole thing is a semicolon. And then you just do a space and you keep going. So I is less than 5 because we want to roll 5 dice because this is like a Yahtzee game. Another semicolon. And then I plus plus, which is another way of saying I plus equals 1, which is another way of saying I equals I plus 1. Those are all different versions of basically doing the same thing. But the convention, and don't worry about, already knowing this, this is all brand new to you. So this should feel very weird. All of this should look very weird. That's fine. We're gonna be spending a lot of time with this. And then at the end of the line, you do a curly brace. So it's the same as the square brace, but with a shift. Yep. And it should automatically, if you do it for the first time here, it should automatically make the closing. You can press enter and it will open it out just like we saw yesterday. And this is going to basically tell our program, this is telling the computer, do what's inside here 5 times. That's all that this is doing. I want to do this 5 times. Now, what are we going to do 5 times? We're going to roll 5 different dice. How are we going to roll a die based on what we have here? We have a list of the symbols, and we have a list, an empty list of the dice that have already been rolled. So we're gonna basically be able to do the same thing 5 times, and with the result that we get, if we roll one dice over and over and over 5 times in this loop, we can each time we can take the result of that and add it into this list. And then at the end of the whole thing, we're going to have 5 random dice inside this list. That's our goal. So first we need to figure out now, how do you get a random die from this list? One random die. So this is going to be a little tricky, but there is a way to pick one of these by the number that its position is in the list. And this is position 0. Everything starts at 0 in these indexes. You see the I started at 0. And that's also, by the way, why it's less than 5. And you're still going to get 5 times because everything starts at 0. So this is position 0, position 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if we can grab something out of here based on its position, and we have the dice that match.
I really haven't. I would eat that. I like that. It's good.
I was worried someone was going to say, I'm having trouble following this. I'm pretty sure this is confusing to some folks already, but hey, like, just try to get the typing in here, and we will get into the details starting tomorrow. But hopefully this does make some sense to people. We need to turn a number that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into one of these symbols. And that's easy because the way that lists work make that very easy. So what we need to get first in here is a number, a random number that is either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And then we're basically done with the problem. So the way that you do that is by using some things that are built into JavaScript. There is a function we can run to get any random number between 0 and 1. So that's step 1. We'll get a random number between 0 and 1. We will multiply that number by 6 to get a random number between 0 and 6. Could whoever has got the unmuted, could you mute, I think, Jahil?
Yeah.
Oh, I can mute you. There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So okay, step 1, we get a random number between 0 and 1. It'll be a decimal. It'll be like 0.55657, whatever. Always between 0 and 1. Step 2, we multiply it by 6 to get a number between 0 and 6. It'll be 5.99999 maybe. It probably won't ever be 6. I don't think it can be. But it'll be 3.245 or 4.162. Or if you're really lucky, it could be 2.0, but that's really, really unlikely. And then we're going to do a thing called flooring it, which means chop off the decimal part and leave us with just one of those numbers between 1 and 6. Or sorry, between 0 and 5, because there are 6 here, but the indexes are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is what all of this looks like. We do const die symbol index. The thing we want is that number between 0 and 5, and that would be properly known as the index for the symbol that we want. And to get this random number, we're going to take this looks a little backwards from the way I described it because of the way that functions work in JavaScript. So we do math.floor. That's the part that's chopping off the decimal part. And inside here, we're going to do another expression called math.random. This is the random number from 0 to 1, a decimal number. That's like a fractional number from 0 to 1. And then we're going to multiply that by 6. So it looks a little backwards as you read it from what I described it, but here's our random number from 0 to 1. Here we multiply it by 6. Here we chop off the decimal, and we are going to be left with an integer number that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now I realize this is still very mathy. Like there is going to be this much math. There's logical math. It doesn't get a whole lot harder with it than this. It's just going to be a whole lot of understanding. If you can really understand that this is just breaking apart this problem of finding a random number between 0 and 5 into like 3 different parts, none of which you should have known by now. I'm just demonstrating what it looks like to break up something as simple as I need a random number from 0 to 5. So once we have that index, we're basically done. We can say rolled dice. The way you add something to the end of this list is with a technique called pushing. So we do rolled dice dot push, and we're going to push the symbol that's the correct symbol. So we'll say die symbols, and we're going to index it with our index that we got, our random index. So this is 0 through 5. So I'm just going to copy that, paste it here. Die symbol index. I don't know why this one is plural and this one is singular, but that's my fault. So at the end of this, we'll add a semicolon like usual. And at the end of this whole loop, if we did this right, we've looped 5 times. We've chosen a random number, but that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And we've gone into our list here and pulled out the element, the item that's at that index. It's with this syntax here. So this is how you grab the actual string that's right here, this little symbol. And we push this into our new list of random dice. So the old list is going to have always 6 dice, 1 through 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The new list at the end of this is going to have 5 dice, and they're going to be random. They could all be the same. They could be all 6s if you got super lucky. So we're done though. We've rolled 5 dice, and we should be able to print them out right away. All we have to do is console.log rolled dice. And if you save this now, and by the way, I'm going to just paste this into the Slack channel. If you got lost typing it, this is your opportunity to copy it out and paste it in to your file, and then you can skip typing. But please try to type. Please do try to type. It's very good practice to train. But I will paste this right after we confirm that it works. So if we hit up and enter, oh, I forgot about this. What is the input? It's not going to even do anything with it. You can see VS Code has made it dim. It's like a little less bright than the things, and it's not going to do anything with this, but I still need to type something before it will continue. So the input will be A, A, enter. And here's our dice. So this roll, I don't know if this is easy to see, but we got a 5, 3, 4, 5, 3. And those are random. And every time we run it, oh, first let me delete this line so we don't get a prompt every time. Every time we run it, we'll get different dice. 2, 4, 3, 3, 3. 6, 3, 5, 3, 3. A lot of threes. 5, 6, 4, 1, 3. So we have a random dice roll every time we run our program. And I'll paste this program. Actually, at this point, we don't need the top one at all. So I'm not even going to bother pasting that. Actually, I am. Because we're about to modify this and add a couple things. So I'll just copy this whole thing. I'll paste it into the pasted code. And that has everything we need to roll 6 dice. So I realize the random numbers is really, really hard to understand. The loop is a little hard to understand. There is definitely some math involved, but I hope that kind of is a nice, very small demonstration of a very simple thing that you can build that is not solving a math problem. It's actually something that does a function. It can roll some dice or pretend to. And I realize it's not a website, it's not, but we are in imperative JavaScript land. There isn't even a browser in sight. So we are still down here in the muck with low level, comparatively low level programming, and will be for a couple days. Yeah, and yeah, this part, might take you a while to really get, and this is the kind of thing where even, I mean, I've been doing this for 12, 15 years, something like that. It would take me maybe a couple tries to get this right. I'd forget, I'd multiply it by 5. I would forget whether it's, something. So this is like not the simplest thing to understand. Also, by the way, just a little tip. If I was doing this for real in my job and I knew right here, everything else was like, okay, I get it. I know how to loop 5 times. I know how to pull the symbol out of the thing. I just need a random number from 0 to 5. And I don't know how. This isn't even here yet. I don't know what to do, right? Here's what I probably would do at my job. And we're going to see if this works. And I hope it does work, because otherwise you're going to be pretty disappointed. But I would go right to the Google and I would say, JavaScript, random number from 0 to, it completed it. Somebody has already tried to do this. And so this is that one call we did. The random function returns a floating point pseudo-random number in the range 0 to less than 1. So it never returns 1. That's what I kind of described, 0 to 1, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the second result though. Generating random whole numbers in JavaScript in a specific range. That's exactly what we want. How can I generate random whole numbers between 2 specified variables in JavaScript? Blah, 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 blah. So this is what programmers do, by the way, a whole lot. We're not all like, oh, I know how to do a random number. Like, you'd be surprised at how often, instead of even think about it for like 15 minutes, it would probably take me, 10 minutes to figure this out from scratch. I won't even bother. I'll just be like, somebody's already asked this question. I'm going to just have the internet answer it. And if it's common enough, if you can break it down into something small enough like this, and you can describe it in the right way, then, this is the other thing that is going to make stuff easier for you. I wouldn't use this as a crutch too much, because if you don't know how to describe something, even if somebody's figured it out, you're not going to be able to find it. So, you still do want to be able to solve things, definitely get practice with that. But in practice, this happens a whole lot and it's totally fine. So let's see, there are some examples. Get random arbitrary. Random number between here. Random integer. Okay, so look, here's a function. Min max, and this is another thing we're gonna do at the end of this week. We'll be doing functions. This is what I talked about when I said you take a larger problem and you split off a little piece of it, and you can encapsulate all of the complexity that you have to do to solve that little bit, and you can package it up in this function here. So what I'm going to do is copy all of this, including the comment, because we might as well just keep whatever they said. I'm going to copy this whole thing right out of Stack Overflow. I'm going to go back to my code, and I'm just going to paste it right up here. And who cares how you do it? If, as long as it works, obviously, there's no guarantee that some random person on the internet has done the right thing. But, at this point, honestly, they're probably better at it than any beginners like yourselves. So, it can't hurt to try it. So you can see get random int. And instead of doing all of this stuff, we can just say, we still need to get that index. We still need to name it. So const die symbol index equals get random int. And VS Code has already figured out that I'm talking about this function. And I want to call this function because this is how you call functions. And again, we're going to talk about this. But the min and the max are, you have to pass them in. So we know we want something between 0 and 5. And you notice this says inclusive and inclusive. And that if you know what that means, it means I want to put the numbers 0 and 5 in here. Now, obviously, you could get this wrong and say 6, but you're just going to get an error eventually, and you'll notice, well, I'm off by 1. The right way to use this is 0 and 5. So this is just as good of a solution. We can say, forget about all this confusing stuff. I'm going to use a solution somebody else has already made. You need to know that inclusive means in the what it does for ranges. This is how you say, if I pass 0, it could be 0. And if I pass 5, because the max is inclusive, it could be 5. And those are the ones that you need, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So instead of doing the math ourselves, we can grab that and we run it again and it works. Just the same. So, and it looks, gee, I don't even know what this method is. Ceiling, min, floor. Oh, I guess you can pass in like negative 0.43 and 5.3, and it'll still have the same behavior because it'll grab the nearest just integers, even if these aren't integers, which is a little crazy. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what all the rest of their code appears to be doing. Anyway, at this point, I really don't expect anybody to be able to, grab a function. We haven't even learned what functions are and everything. Grab a function from the internet. But this is like a classic thing that you can do and probably will find yourself doing. And it's perfectly fine as an alternative. If you have a little piece that you can describe and ask for a code snippet, you can usually find it. Yeah, so I guess why don't we leave the last 10 minutes? Rather than, if you go to the after, you can see a whole bunch more stuff. We package up our whole dice roll in its own function called roll dice, and you can pass the number of dice. And this is why we had this prompt in the first place. We didn't really need it for today, I guess, but this basically lets you roll dice over and over without running your program again and again. So here's another while loop. Let's shift space. Here's another while loop. This is a prompt for how many dice. You pull in the number of dice, and you basically, you can't have a negative number of dice, I guess. And then you grab a whole lot of dice indices to pull out of our thing. And then you use a special magic thing called map, which we'll talk about much later. And you can try this, just try this after file. And remember that it ends in TS, so after.ts. And this will let you roll 5 dice, or 3 dice, or 4 dice, or 5 dice, and it prints them out nicely. So that's what the rest of that code does, is it just lets you do it several times. And if you hopefully pulled the latest from GitHub, it will have this bit in it, which apparently means, hopefully, you can do Control C, and quit. So that's what that program is. I think the only other thing I would want to do today is, if we change this extension to TS, we can see how TypeScript works compared to how JavaScript works. And it's going to be pretty much the same thing in this case. If we hover over here, we can see that it's already got a :NE, and VS Code does this for all JavaScript. This here is the type that it's trying to figure out from this file, or from this, that it's trying to figure out this variable has some type. And it's just extra data that VS Code is going to help to use to check that your program is correct. So if we control click on our file, we go down all the way to rename, and we click at the end here, and instead of JS, we make this TS. You notice the logo changes.
Now my prompt sync has a red line under it.
Yeah, well, that's odd. Oh boy, I didn't try this ahead of time. It's because, oh boy. So let's call this one prompt sync 2 just to make this go away. So here is, so this is, again, setup is going to be harder. We're not even using this in the second one, so we could just delete this whole thing. But for some reason, the way we have our TypeScript set up, it's actually comparing things across our 2 files. And it's saying, well, you've already used this name, and it's, you know, that's you can't do that with the default setup. So this is kind of illustrating what I'm saying. It would take a little doing to get this working. But now that we have this, the difference between these the two methods is, if I said dice symbols dot push, so I want to add one more symbol, and I put a 1 in there, JavaScript would be fine with this. JavaScript would say, there's no problem. You have string, 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 and number at the end. That's fine. But TypeScript says, no, you can't, because number is not assignable to parameter of type string. And if you know what this means, it's that you are trying to add a number to something that has the type of an array of strings. It's decided that this has only strings in it, And TypeScript knows that you should not be adding a number to it because it has decided that it's strings. Now, this can help you a lot. So this is what I'm talking about. In a longer program, this can help you a lot because it will prevent you from making a mistake. This is a classic kind of mistake where, you know, if these are all IDs that are, you know, 1, 2, 3, and these go to a database or something, but they're really all strings, and you accidentally add something that's a number, it's going to break something, and it's going to break it later on because JavaScript won't have told you that, hey, you know, I understand these to be all strings, and you're breaking this rule. So basically, you can get an advance warning of things that could break, but again, the trade-off is going to be the setup. In this case, if you knew that, yes, you want a number on here, you definitely want to be able to put either numbers or strings, but you don't start out with any numbers. You have to do something like this. And this is not JavaScript. This is just TypeScript. So you have to actually give this variable a type. This would be array of number or string. And this gets into some very tricky type setup. This is way beyond what we're going to be talking about in this module at all. But notice how now the error is gone. And that's because I've told TypeScript successfully that, hey, I definitely want this array to be able to have numbers in it or strings, but nothing else. So if I try to do dice symbols.push true, well, it says, no, you can't put a Boolean as a parameter that's string or number. It knows that I've said this array can only have numbers or strings. It lets you basically put guardrails around everything, but it's more to set up. It's more difficult to understand. And that's the trade-off. So yeah, I would probably not worry about it for a while. You can always kind of like upgrade your project to use TypeScript later if you choose to. I would probably recommend you don't even think about it for a while. You will get some of the benefits of VS Code just by using VS Code. Like I said, it's written in TypeScript. It will try to help as much as it can, but it won't have as much guardrail kind of stuff as it can here. Now, if you notice, if I delete this, now both of these obviously are a problem because it's guessed that this is only strings. If I put a number in here, this one is fine now because now it's guessing that it's strings or numbers. And if I put a true, likewise. So it's a very powerful technology, but again, a lot more to understand and a lot more to set up. And finally, what I'll show here is that if you rename this back to JS, everything's fine again, right? It's going to be totally fine adding a number on the end of here, adding a Boolean on the end of here, no problem. That's good and bad, right? It's not breaking now, but it might break when you're running it later on, and something weird will happen at runtime, and you know you'll have to fix it then. So again, like it's just a trade-off. I would not try to take it on right away, but you might want to consider it for your capstone. And that's really all. This is the last time we're going to talk about TypeScript for this module. So this is just, I just wanted to put this out there as like, that's what it means when I'm talking about TypeScript. It's not, it's very similar to JavaScript, but it's a whole lot more added on to it that can help, but it can also make setup very difficult. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's really all I wanted to illustrate with this. But like, yeah, in this case, this program, the after program, is valid as either one. So it's totally fine. There's nothing in here that TypeScript has decided is a problem. So this I can rename to either way. And there's no special TypeScript stuff in here anywhere, but it is providing me some extra checking that the JavaScript is not. So if we look at, if you like hover over things, this, it knows it's a string because this prompt thing, it knows this prompt thing returns a string. It knows the number of dice is an integer or is a number. JavaScript doesn't really have integers at all. We'll get into that tomorrow. It knows this is a number because parse int returns a number. It knows that all of the indexes of the random dice is an array of numbers because this thing must return an array of numbers. But see, it does not know the type of the number of dice because we've never specified it. So if we added number, that would make our program a little safer, but it's not valid JavaScript anymore. This is only a TypeScript thing you can do. So again, like, you know, if you're curious to hear more about it, let me know. But otherwise, we are not going to talk about TypeScript. It's very, in this case, it's almost kind of an accident that the same program works as TypeScript or JavaScript. That won't always be the case. It's usually very similar. But TypeScript has a lot more to it, a lot more tools that you can use to sort of safeguard and make sure that your program is doing exactly what you want it to do. But there's a lot of extra stuff to learn. So that's my whole spiel about TypeScript. Hopefully this was, we're a little over time. Hopefully this was a little fun demonstrating the dice roll. Kind of derailed it at the end, sorry about that. But yeah, I'll be around for a little bit if you have any questions. And tomorrow we're going to start going into the actual start of JavaScript fundamentals. So the describing what are all these things? What are the keywords? What are variables, values? What are expressions? What are all these parts? And as a preview, if you look at the end of the slides today, we were, this is what we would have gotten into if we were doing slides. Whoops. This is a totally different one. But here's like a line of code. This is the only thing I want to just show. This is a line of code. Here's some of the words I've been using, and we'll go over all of these in detail. And you're going to learn basically what all of these things are. Expressions, the equals and the plus are called operators. The numbers are values, strings are values. That's a semicolon, as you can see. The whole thing's a statement. This const and the let and the if and the for, those are called keywords. The names of the things, when you name, the number of children, adults, those are variables. And when you do this together, it's called a variable declaration. So you don't have to memorize all this. We're going to go through this all in great detail for the rest of this week, and then get into program structure, functions, and then you'll be off, start understanding the beginnings of JavaScript. It's a lot. So, hopefully this is, hopefully you're ready to start really digging in. Don't worry if you didn't retain much of the stuff that we wrote already, because we are starting from like the basics tomorrow. So see you then.
Hey Gus.
Yes.
Mel he threw it in the student pasted code, and he was getting the same type of error. But he's in his CIC folder, like his code, like Carolyn wanted to fix so that she could have it in her own folder.
Okay.
So I just told him to hang out for a second because you were going to talk to Carolyn about how to fix that with being in her own folder instead of the code base folder.
Yep.
Okay.
Latanya, your problem is you have the word cost instead of const. You missed the N in const.
Yeah, I did answer that. Sorry.
Okay.
I have a question
Yes.
too. So when I was coding along, I thought that I coded along wrong because my rolled dice before dot push and then my console before dot log was red, and I thought red on VS Code meant like there was an error. But then I copied and pasted your code from the student channel and it's the same way. Is there a reason why those would be red?
Is it a TS file?
No, well, it's the JS now, right now.
And it's still red.
Yeah.
If you hover over where the red is, does it show anything? It usually will give you some information.
It just says const roll dice any. And then when I go over console, it says var console.
But it runs? It runs?
Yeah, it runs. I was just wondering if there was like a reason why it would be red, because I was always told that red in VS Code was like error.
Yeah, it sounds like an error. I'm not sure. Could you if you can hang on after we do Mel's problem, I'm happy.
Oh, it's not that big of a deal. I have to actually have to go and get my little one to bed. I was just wondering. I mean, it runs.
Yeah,
so.
if it works, it works. You saw that in the
Yeah,
slide,
exactly.
like, you know, don't worry too much about it, but that is something we should look into. Yeah.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too. Good night. Okay. Mel, let's see. Stack. Module.
I got the same thing.
Okay. Okay, so is this in the file that looks like the before file where you typed in? Or is this the after file?
The before file.
Okay. Try do you have that const prompt sync thing at the top? What's your first line? What's your first line look? Can you paste your entire file into the channel and also?
Oh, okay.
Thanks. This will help me look at it real quick. Yeah. And I'm gonna put the music back on because we are in lobby relaxing jazz hour, where we answer your questions and solve all of your programming problems.
I'm Fraser Crane and I'm listening.
Yeah. Sounds good. Cool. Okay, so try just deleting that first line. I think you might have had a problem with the npm I, and we ended up not even getting far enough to need this first line at all. Delete all of that. The prompt sync, the next line that says const input, and the console log right after that. Delete all three of those, and it should work.
Yeah, it worked now.
Yeah, cool.
Now why is that?
Well, so I think what's happening is that you, and probably Carolyn too, remember when we were doing the thing that was npm I, that command?
Mhm.
And I think because of the way that you copied your folders, you're not doing it the same way as everybody else, where we're jumping into VS Code right from the code base in the GitHub Desktop for the code base. So I'm going to just get rid of all of these changes, discard, and yeah. So we, most of the class, if you can see my screen, we're opening this. Sarah, good night. Kyle, I don't know if it's too late. Everybody's probably gone, but yeah, if you can open the VS Code folder from Visual Studio Code, and in any case, the more important thing is that you need to open the terminal here with the W6D2 folder. So you need to hold Control, click on this, go to Open an Integrated Terminal. and then do npm I. And if you did it right, you should see audited 4 packages.
Added
then-
4 packages, added 5.
You have audited 4 packages?
I have added 4 packages and audited 5
Aha,
packages.
see, if you see added, that's why it wasn't working before, because you didn't have any of that installed from the right folder. The folder you run this in is important because it has to use the file, these things, these new files that are in whatever folder you're running it from. So wherever you ran this from before wasn't the folder that you're in now. And now if you run your script again, it shouldn't complain. But I mean, like I said, all that stuff, we never ended up using it today. So you could just delete it too, and you wouldn't have to worry about installing anything.
So do I just type in the name of the file without anything before it, or do I need node?
You need node. You need to start the command. Yeah, there's kind of a tricky way to do that, but we're not going to go into that.
Right, so node and the name of the file I want to open.
Yes. I will be pedantic and correct you and say you're technically executing the file, you're running the file, you're not opening the file.
All right, I'll process that later.
Okay.
I
When
hear
you-
what you're saying right now. I don't care.
Okay.
I will, though. I swear I will. No.
Yes.
I had my second COVID shot today, and I'm already getting out to
Oh
lunch.
no.
So
Yeah, you
I
might
don't
get
care.
some side effects tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. How many dice would you like to roll?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I put stuff in. Yeah, we're good. I move things around.
So try doing 3 dice and see if it
What
works.
if I want to roll 10?
You can do 100.
What'll it tell me?
You can do 1,000.
Oh, it did give me 10. Okay, so you want me to do 3?
Sure, whatever. I mean,
Okay,
it works.
it's it's
The
showing up.
the point is it's working. That's good.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
really cool. Okay, and I can go back and really look through it and review this video and everything. And another question, this is not a big deal, but in the file that we got from you, under the const dice symbols, we have, I don't know if they're Unicodes or whatever, I don't care. But it's got the /U2680, and yours actually shows the symbols. Is there something I need to do to get those? Is that settings on my computer, or doesn't it even matter?
They're both, so the ones I pasted into, it doesn't, you can do it either way. So I think I had this, I didn't have time to like explain the /U thing, but basically they're equivalent. And if you're really checking in the code, you do want it to be that /U thing, because that's more compatible with, older computers or whatever. It's less things to break, but it's nicer it's a little easier to see, oh, this is just a dice character, it's a Unicode dice, so either one works totally fine.
Because my results show, the little squares with, I can't see what's on them.
Right. So the
but I
symbols-
didn't know if that was something I needed to change settings, if it mattered, but I don't care. I like it this way. I like to see code. I like code. So, all right, great. So just to revisit one more time, initially when we were bringing down files down from the code base, we were putting them in like different places, and just, I don't know, there was this fear that, we could corrupt it or something. So we have this, my code folder that we put all our classwork and stuff in. But for the purposes of this module under your watch, you would prefer us to just have a classroom code base directory in our space and in Java.
Well, I mean,
this
I
code.
I would say, if you're comfortable moving the files out or saving whatever you want to save separately, I would definitely recommend just working in the GitHub, in the place where you clone the things directly, and just following the same steps, just
Okay.
because it's going to be fewer things to go wrong during class.
Yeah. A lot went wrong today.
Yeah. Well, and don't worry about the possibility that you'll break the class repo. That's not possible. You Your
Oh, I don't know. I
No.
did something. Max thought I did something one time that I had, and it was like,
that's why it might now be read only. Like, I don't know. I don't know what happened back
all
then.
I did was click on that little mini screen that you have on the right, and yes, I don't know.
Okay, well,
Anyway,
I'm pretty sure either way, by now, none of the student accounts, you can't overwrite what's already on that classroom code base.
so if I make a change in VS Code and I want to push it up, I'm pushing it up to my Git account.
No, you're pushing it up nowhere because
Well,
it's
but I
just
do.
it's just gonna error.
No, I have a.
Well, if you're working in a different repo, sure, but during class, if you want everything to work like my demo, you should do it in the folder and then just discard those changes. Is probably the best thing to do. And yeah.
So there's not a lot in this we need to actually save per se. I mean, we'll do the code. We'll hand it in. We're not building a page, and we need all right.
Anything that we are doing in class, it's really up to you if you want to save it somewhere else. You want to do that save as. I can show you how to save as and get back. But like anything you want to save separate from the class and different, it's just up to you to do that, because we really don't have the bandwidth to manage everybody's individual situation with the files. We're going to run out of time. So we're really just trying to make sure everybody starts from the same place.
Exactly.
And then that means that, whatever differences you've done, you kind of have to save separately and manage on your own. If that's okay, I don't think we have a better.
No, I will be reformed from here on out. And if there's something in there that I'm absolutely in love with, I'll make a copy of it and put it somewhere else too.
And if you just remember that discarding the changes deletes it. So before doing that, if you have any questions about whether you're going to be saving it, reach out to somebody at that point, and we'll be happy to help with anything. But if you can figure out how to save those files off, and then just go back to the repository for the next class, that'll work fine. So
that's great. So what's going to happen then from class to class? Will there be updates pushed to us, and we'll see that we need to pull stuff in, or do we have to go get it? You'll tell us when we need to, or?
I think I'm going to try to do the same pattern, which is any changes to the repo, we're just going to pull them right to GitHub Desktop for the class, and then jump right to VS Code in the same that we did today.
Okay.
And if there is one day that ends with the update, and then that becomes the start of the next day, there's not going to be that much of that in the next 2 weeks. But if there's like continuous things, I'm probably just going to copy the end of it into the other folder, and I'll push it up, and then everybody can pull it and be starting from the same point the next day. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know like you had made some changes. It was like, okay. So, all right. This is good. This is all good. I finally think I've got my screen thing. I'm watching you on my bigger screen, but then I have Zoom going on the Mac with no volume and no camera. So if I have to share screen, because I couldn't share screen from my Toshiba, I guess. But that way, while you're doing this stuff, I can be over here actually doing it and not trying to move little windows around and stuff. So it's much easier.
Yeah.
But it took some doing. Well, Have a good night. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You too.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
You bet.
Hope you don't get too bad side effects.
Well, if I'm moaning and groaning, I'll just be on mute.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Excuse me, Gus.
Yep.
It's Latonia. So I made the change. I saved the file, and it's still giving me the same error with the same message. Is there a way that I can make sure that the terminal is like reset? Like I keep trying this whole clear or control C. Like I keep trying to make sure it's like, reading this new information, and I feel like it's not working.
In this case, it's because of I think it's the same. Do you have the same problem as Carolyn? I think it's because of the you were running the npm I command in a different folder. Probably.
I
So
don't
what-
know. I got through all of that with no problem. The problem didn't come up until the whole cost instead of const issue.
Okay. And now what's the problem?
So I keep getting this error that says syntax error, but it's still saying cost roll dice,
Okay.
even though
so
I
it's
changed
not-
it to const.
So it's not picking up wherever you're editing, it's not picking it up.
Yeah, which I think is what the issue I had earlier when it wasn't reading, even
Could
though
you
the
share-
content was right.
Could you share your screen real quick?
Yeah. Oh, it's saying cannot start screen share
Oh,
or
whoops.
others.
That's my fault. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Let's try this again. Which one is this one? You see it okay?
Yep, it's purple. Cool. Okay, so you have const here.
There's
Well,
another
okay,
one.
So there's a, see how that says deleted up there?
Deleted.
That's not good. That's VS Code is telling you you're working in a file. See near the top, it says deleted.
Oh yeah.
That tells you you're working in some kind of ghost file, which no longer exists
What?
because you deleted the underlying file somehow. Yeah.
How did that happen? So what can I do? Can I just create a new file?
Can you,
Close this.
so do you have changes in here you want to save?
Well, I just made a copy.
Okay, you copied the whole contents. of
Yeah,
it.
I just did a control copy.
Okay, so close that then and open the W6D2 Yahtzee there. And what was the file you wanted to be working in? This one?
This was it right here.
Yeah, so click that again and you'll still see there'll probably be, yep. So somehow you got the updated version and it overwrote something. Somehow you were working in a file that no longer existed. So that deleted thing is definitely something to watch out for.
That's weird. Okay.
Anyway, no, I mean, there's no way you would have known to recognize that, but that's a gotcha.
Okay. And then, so is this the right terminal that I would be in to run the node?
Yeah, it looks right because the prompt ends with W6D2 Yahtzee, just like your folder. So that looks like the right one, unless you have another copy of the whole thing somewhere. But I don't think so. I wouldn't bet on it. Yeah, okay. So you still need to do that, which it just throws away.
Okay, but now it's working.
Yep.
That's so weird. So, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. It seems like today was just so is this supposed to say what's the input every time, or am I supposed to?
Well, that's line 3. You still have that prompt thing, which we never ended up using.
Oh, up here.
You can comment that out or delete that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm so sorry. I just feel like today was just.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we got through it. Okay. So now I'm not saving anything. I'm just discarding changes, closing out, and we're good to go, right?
Yeah. If you don't want to keep any of this, or just paste it into the pasted code channel if you need it later, who cares?
No, I can just do a save as real quick just to have it.
Sure.
All right. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah. And then I think tomorrow, hopefully, I don't know if this was the right approach to like throw so much code at people before we understood it, but tomorrow we're going to be going over stuff very carefully from the ground up. So there won't be as much cool code. That's the trade-off. There won't be as much cool stuff to show, but hopefully everybody has got the sense that like, yeah, maybe too much of that sense.
No, I think this helps us. It's just been a long day. I was talking with Karen earlier and I felt like I just wasted her time. It's just been one of those days where things just don't go right. And it's like little stuff, I guess. But I think this is really helpful to coding. So
okay. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, sorry I mean, there's That's rough. I mean, I know like it's one of those problems with doing a big class. It's like if you get stuck on one thing, then all of a sudden you're like there's a whole disconnect between.
Yeah.
I've been saying maybe I should do like every 15 minutes be like paste it into the channel and say, hey, if your stuff is broken, copy this out and overwrite whatever you got.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people are like, no, I want to make it work myself. You know, I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only way we're going to learn is if we're struggling through it. So, and they actually say
yeah.
some people learn. I know I learn better when I make mistakes. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'll stop yakking everybody's ear off. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, you too.
Good night.
Good night, Karen. Let me know if there's anything. Oh, homework's in the Google Classroom. I should post that. It's very simple. It's not this hard. You don't have to figure out random numbers or anything. All right. Oh, she's gone. All right. Thanks, Karen.
We'll put her in the waiting room. So we can probably stop the recordings and stuff. I
Oh,
put
do we have to clean up everything or can